Oh, my microphone was muted the whole time I was talking.
I was looking at that thinking, does he know he's streaming on mute?
Oh man, it's gonna be one of those days, is it?
We're off to a strong start here.
Yeah, yeah. I think Max is just waiting in the backstage right now. I think he's getting ready, so he can. I'll wait for him to let me know that he's ready before I bring him on. I got Brian's going to try to make a stop in as well today, and Spencer will be here also.
Very cool.
Yeah, and another one. I did one stream with him before. I don't know if you've heard of him. Run My Crypto. Have you seen his stuff?
No, I don't know him.
He covers JASMY, so
okay, cool.
Had him on before. He makes a lot of JASMY merch and stuff like that. He's pretty cool guy. Oh.
Very cool.
But
all right,
we got a big panel today.
I know. I saw your invite and I saw the names on there, and I thought, wow, this will be like a new record.
Yes. If everyone shows up, it'll be 6 of us.
Great.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess I said in the messages to most of you guys, Saturday, June 2nd, but it's the 1st. So
that's funny.
It threw Max off, but I realized shit, I hope they realize it's Saturday.
So, sometime this weekend, right?
Yeah, whatever, I just throw it out there. So yeah, quite a bit to talk about, man. But how you been, brother?
I've been good. Obviously following the market. There's Max. What's up, Max?
Hey, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, I just got here.
Oh.
Yeah, so you're saying how you been doing, buddy?
Yeah, no, I've been good. Just following along on the market, seeing what's happening. It's interesting time with JASMY, that's for sure. I don't really want to say too much about that until everybody's on here, but yeah, it's exciting. It's always nice to get a little vindication. Funny story, I got a text from my dad the other day, and he was like, "Hey," he's like, "Are you cashing out your JASMY?" And I said, "No." He's like, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm riding this thing to millions." He said, "Oh." He goes, "Well, I guess I'm riding it to thousands." And I said, "I guess so."
I'm riding it to thousands. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been getting that a lot. A lot of people asking me, hey man, like if I'm taking profits and stuff, and I'm like, man, at 3 cents, 5, 6, no, absolutely not. I'm not taking profits.
Yeah.
And that's just me, but that's way too low compared to where I think it's going, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I keep bringing up the Cardano thing, and I'm telling you, man, I remember looking at Cardano at like 3 cents thinking like, I missed it. It's too late. Forget it. Then it's, around like 25, 27. And I'm like, shit. I'm like, all right, let's get some Cardano, and then it still went on quite a run from there, So it's like, am I cashing out at 3 cents? No, I'm not.
Yeah, I saw your post about that, I think yesterday, about Cardano. And yeah, I saw it at 3 cents. Was like, you know what? Damn, I missed the boat. And a lot of people, it's funny you say that, because a lot of people were saying the same thing about like KASPA too. Like I was buying KASPA below, same thing as Cardano. It's had an eerily similar run as Cardano up to this point in the last bull run, KASPA, that is. And again, it was a fraction of it. It was like half a cent. I was buying it, shot up to like 3 cents, and everyone was saying the same thing that you're kind of mirroring there, is like, oh, it's too late. It's 3 cents now. And then it shot up to like 18 cents. Right? Yeah. That's why I say, for me, dollar cost averaging is always like the absolute best strategy that's always worked for me, right? As opposed to chasing green candles and worrying about a project that's pumping when yours isn't and all that kind of stuff. I watch people literally drive themselves insane with that stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say, I think it was Captain JASMY did a post the other day where he said exactly that. And he's like, I had so many buys above this number, so many buys below that number. Now I'm like 3 or 4x over kind of what everything added up to. I mean, that's a clear win, you know. Like, I think sometimes in crypto, people kind of lose perspective because, you know, they think everything's like 100x, and if you don't do that, then it's crap. And it's like, you know, I still compare this to like, you know, like the 401k, where like 13% in a year is like the best year you've ever had, you know? So, I mean, it's kind of all relative, you know?
Well, I have a very, very simple strategy I employ every single bull run. And that is like about 12 months after the top, we know we fall down, what, 85 to 90%, let's say, the general market, right? And then that's at that point, that's when I really start to pick up, like you were saying, those blue chips that are higher market cap, because that's basically the lowest they're going to be. Your Polkadots, your chain links, right? Your Cardanos, you know, your XRPs, whatever. Pick them up at their lowest, at the earliest, and then like a year later or something, then we start looking at, you know, the newer projects. And you know, we got Brian in the house. Brian, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good to have you, man.
Can you hear me okay through this microphone?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh
Awesome.
my gosh, Brian, like on the live, on video. How about that?
On the live, on video.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't look like that AI image.
Yeah, might be. You never know these days. Especially since, Jesse, we've probably talked on Spaces going on 2 years now, but I've never done an actual video with you. So this is the first time I think you and I have ever even been on video together.
I'm going to be honest. I used to think you were British.
Well, I can be British. It just depends on the time of the day.
There you go.
I appreciate you making the time for us, Brian. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
One of the things I was excited to hear about from you was your breakdown there. I've listened to you talk on the JASMY or on the X Spaces about you know, the KPI number and how everyone thinks 17 is. I'd like to hear you walk through that again, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I can just give a quick high-level walkthrough on it, since everything's pretty much spelled out. But just to summarize it, you know, JASMY essentially, or Hara rather, wrote the original white paper with Masanobu Yoshida back in 2018. It was published in 2020. Later that year, he actually wrote a roadmap for JASMY Coin. So within this roadmap, he established some key performance indicators. Those KPIs, as they're known, are getting to 107 million active PDL users is one of their goals. They don't have a date. Well, they're aiming for 2026 basically to hit these, but there's not like an exact date. And that could mean it could be like March of 2027, since their fiscal year is basically April to March. So 107 million active PDL users. The value of each individual's data should be at $500 USD per person, which is just an average. Might be.
Oh, I think we lost Brian there. He kind of went silent. Spencer's in the house, though. JASMY US, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. While we wait for Brian to come back.
Hey guys, good to see you guys. Doing pretty well, busy as ever. Been teaching, so I got like 2 weeks left of the school year, so excited for that summer coming up. But what a nice surprise with JASMY these past few weeks, huh?
Yeah,
no doubt.
That's an understatement, man. Absolutely. Three
Hey,
gorgeous. Oh, sorry, Brian's back. Sorry, you froze on us there, buddy.
Yeah, apparently they don't want me talking about the KPIs, so they just I got disconnected real quick. I guess it was one of the midday neighborhood suddenly reset everything. But anyway, was I interrupting you when I came back in?
No, I was just looking at the 3 daily candles in a row there of green. That's all.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, they're looking good. Everything's actually looking really bullish. But this is where, with the price itself, these KPIs actually can help drive it going forward. So those first two KPIs, the 107 million active PDL users and the value of data on the platform being for each individual user per capita on an annual basis being valued at $500 USD per person, gives you, I forget off the top of my head, somewhere around 56 billion rather, total data valuation held on the platform. So I've always looked at this as like data under management. I know the acronym spells dumb, so something to be worked on, but take it like that because this is a consortium of companies who all are bringing their own customer base to the platform. Therefore, it's not like there's a single entity that's controlling this. So I like to look at this more so as like any type of, you know, BlackRock or Vanguard or whoever that has tons of assets, tons of investments and everything else. It's not like they are worth what everything they have underneath their belt is. It's just that they hold a lot of assets. And I look at, you know, data is a commodity. So all these companies are bringing to the actual JASMY.net, the consortium blockchain, all these users with PDLs and their actual data. So the total value that they're aiming for of that data, just flat out, is 107 million users times $500 per person. And those are active users. The kicker is that HARA has been wanting to try to implement some sort of how to properly value data. You know, this is a big topic whenever I read any papers or white papers or anything out there that you would never think to read that businesses kind of publish behind the scenes, but it's publicly out there. Any type of working or study groups, everybody's talking about how do we really value data? Well, we're not going to know until we actually start having major data trading platforms using all this new technology, such as sensors. But the thing is that HARA wants to try to use multiple different newer ratios to help value this, to help kind of give a forward projection on what pricing could be in the future based on the value of expected or the expected value of that data in the future. So we can't have like a price to earnings or a price to book for JASMY's data platform. It doesn't really apply that way. So he created what he calls the price to data value ratio. He's aiming to have that ratio at 16.7. So you multiply that 16.7 multiplier by, I should do the math because if Dip sees this, he's going to be upset that I didn't say it exactly right, but $56 billion worth of data under management, so to speak, on the actual JASMY.net platform. Then you get to around $853 billion market cap. Now, the way you get to this calculation with the PDR, you have to have the actual market cap and circulating supply of JASMY coin. The price is completely irrelevant. There is no price prediction because they don't know what the circulating supply is going to be. They have their expectations, but whatever the circulating supply is at that time will determine the price. So that's where all this comes into play with lockups and having businesses like have to purchase JASMY to utilize the platform and stake it. Same thing with individual users, which HARA's mentioned, you know, individual users won't be that much per person, but it does add up when you get to 107 million users. So that's kind of what's exciting about it is that if this really does work out, I don't have a problem seeing market caps that big for a consortium of companies all bringing their individual customer base to a platform going forward, especially when we're going into a new exponential age of mankind that everyone likes to use these days in terms of talking points, because you're going to start seeing valuations of companies that are just absolutely insane, like NVIDIA, for instance, recently with their explosion in price because GPUs are in such high demand for training artificial intelligence. So just that alone, when you think about that, data is essentially the oil for artificial intelligence systems going forward into the future. Data will have a lot of value. And that's where it's kind of like, okay, I don't really have an issue with $853 billion valuation of JASMY coin because it's not just JASMY. It's at this point Panasonic as well, as we know, Transcosmos. You know, you have tons of other companies that we either have confirmed. Tons we're still speculating on. You have Sony in the mix. Currently, it's just Sony Business Networks, which is underneath SONET. But going forward, you know, there's just going to be more and more ways for them to utilize Jasmy Coin and get data. Like the Carbon Credit Exchange generates data, even though they're not directly using Jasmy Coin for the exchange and the tokens. It will generate data that's valuable, and that can be traded on the platform. That can increase the value of data. Same thing with Junction itself. You're going to have a lot of data involved with that. So anytime you think about how to increase the price of Jasmy, just to finish this up, it's just getting individual users from as many different types of businesses as you can out there to get well-refined or well-rounded data that can then be refined into what Jasmy terms platinum data, which is artificial intelligence refined data that is very specific, very precise, and most importantly, accurate based on sensor data from the edge and IoT devices out in the field. So it's a very new concept. I'm excited to see how it turns out, but you know, we're talking about price points that are way ahead. We're just now finally getting up to early 2022 price points. Let's just take it one step at a time, see how the company does.
Well, that's why I say that in the peak of this bull run, because I'm diversified, I'm definitely only going to be selling about 50% of my bag of Jasmy, if that, just because, you know, I know where it could be going in the future, right? And I don't want to lose these entry points that we're at now, right? Or that we were at a couple of months ago, right? So I would like to get, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to add on to that. You know, I typically don't really talk about price too much. That's not something I've been comfortable with, just being in the US and just not knowing. Like, I'm just trying to tiptoe and err on the side of caution. In fact, not many of us up here really talk about price too much, but you know, I know some of you guys go over the charts and things like that. But with one thing I've never mentioned is that, you know, no matter what happens, how ridiculous or where valuation goes, I plan on holding at least 50,000 Jasmy coin for the foreseeable future. You never know what use cases they're going to come up with that you can use Jasmy coin for to generate additional income. DPIN is a great example of that. If I can actually use Jasmy coin that I bought for nothing and have a bunch of it deployed at a much higher price to multiple devices around my house, being used for decentralized physical infrastructure networks, then that can garner me money as well, or staking, or whatever options there are. So I think it's beneficial that if the company does work out, to always not completely sell out of your entire bag, whatever your reasons are. And those are mine personally.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to get everybody's kind of take, because there's so much controversy around this whole, you know, Apple Jasmy connection. It's a kind of like a roundabout partnership, not a direct one. You're not going to see Ondo on stage making out with the CEO of, you know, Apple or anything. But I would like to get everyone's understanding of it, kind of one at a time here, guys. If someone wants to kick in, anybody got an opinion on it?
Oh, I do. I just talk a lot, so I try to not steamroll conversations. Y'all can go if you have any opinions, but I know exactly what happened with it.
Let us know, brother.
Okay.
You're going to go? Okay, no problem.
No, go ahead, Max. If you had something, please.
It seemed like you had something. I'll respond right after that. How about that?
Okay. Well, I messaged Dip about this too. I texted him about it when it happened, because I was like, one, Houston did an excellent post. He was saying, he's a great researcher in our community. Been around since 2021 posting research, but he found that, not to misquote, I actually have it in my bookmarks. Let me just pull it up real quick. Let's see. Here it is. So Houston posted that the My Number card function will be installed on iPhones next spring. Now, My Number is very important in Japan. It's also been something that a lot of the populace has lamented over using in the digital transformation age, because it does contain so much of your valuable data, all encompassed into one, or is heading in that direction. But it's a big deal that it's getting incorporated with iPhones. Obviously, you can, if you know about JASMY, you can see immediately that they can help protect that data. So we've always kind of speculated that JASMY will play a part in that. Especially with it being a Felica-based type of technology as well. And this all has to do with NFC technology within the My Number card system, whether it's completely integrated into a cell phone or if it is on an actual card, but they're moving more towards mobile devices. That's what the news was. We're also excited about that because of JASMY's partnership with a company called CyberTrust Japan, and them actually doing KYC functions with them. So that's what the news was. A lot of us veterans were like extremely excited rather to see that news. That was the news. What got out of control was that a crypto news Twitter company or profile, one of their journalists wrote an op-ed piece that I'm not trying to bash the journalist, because I would probably do the same if I had to write 2 articles a day, but it looked like they just used Grok on Twitter, because the AI Grok on Twitter actually pulls from Twitter posts. And aside from having, they quoted Houston's research at the top in his post that I just mentioned. Below that was a lot of speculation that I've seen Grok do when I've used it, pulling from multiple people's opinions, not facts. So what it said was JASMY partners with Apple. It didn't partner with Apple. There is no official announcement that there is a partnership with Apple. There is a strong belief among many of us researchers who've been in this for a long time that this is basically going to happen. Even HAR has mentioned in the past that they've been working on business developments with Apple, but there's been no detail on that. Just like with Panasonic, we may not hear about it until it happens, but there is no official announcement. Now, people automatically assumed when they saw that on Binance.com that it was a Binance official press release. That crypto company just published it to Binance.com. That's all it was. You can actually see who published it there. I went to them, found their X, went and saw who the journalist was, everything else. It was well written. It's just that it was a little ambitious with how it phrased that. So there is no official partnership that has been announced.
So are they actually using JASMY's technology with this, though?
There is no official confirmation that I could point towards that is a fact. Just what I've mentioned with JASMY having a lot of ties with Apple, not only in Japan, but even all the way back with Steve Jobs and Kunitake Ando, worked together multiple times on several projects. They have a history together. You can find that Masanobu Yoshida was one of the founders of JASMY, and he actually was the one responsible when he left Sony, joined SoftBank. He, with Masa-san from SoftBank, he brought the iPhone to Japan. So he was responsible for kind of, I guess, formatting it, and they had to do a bunch of things to it, et cetera. But he was the person responsible for helping broker the deal to bring iPhones to Japan through SoftBank. And then you have, of course, the CyberTrust partnership with JASMY. CyberTrust is also going to be a part of My Number. And I know several of you guys already know this stuff, but just for the general audience, that's like where a lot of it goes. There's also a lot of things we could point out between My Number and JASMY that like Little Bidman, Level 8, a lot of the older researchers, Houston, et cetera, they've all posted about many times over the years. Even Dip in 2022, when I was going back searching through quotes to bookmark, had something in there. Man, wouldn't it be nice if we're partnered with My Number sometime soon? And that was October of 22. So there's just, it's speculative. And I want people to understand that, because I don't think it's fair when somebody new comes in, they see a bunch of hype around something and they see a bunch of influencers with high 5 or 6-figure follower accounts retweeting something that wasn't verified in the first place to be authentic, which it's it's not. That Jasmy partnered with Apple is not a factual statement.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword with the larger content creators. I agree, because when the price of Jasmy, like look at the 3 daily candles here, right? And when the price of Jasmy is running, they come out of the woodwork, but they don't do any research into anything, right?
Yeah.
And then they start throwing out price predictions, and it's a click thing, and I understand. It's like,
yeah. I mean, can't blame somebody for
let's be
generating buzz.
Guys, let's be fair on something, all right? Even with stocks, it's all about supply and demand. So action, reaction. My thing is this, right? Back to what Brian was literally just talking about. He was talking about, for example, cyber trust and so on. You spoke a Little Bidman. Little Bidman actually just posted this not that long ago. This was on the 21st. Let's go ahead and share this for a second. All right, so here it is. Little Bidman talks specifically in reference pretty much to what Brian was talking about. Cybertrust announced cooperation with Simplex, for instance. Offer banking security using iTrust, back to what Brian was talking about, identity verification built by Cybertrust, and of course Jasmy. This, in fact, uses the PDL for safe handling of data stored in my number card IC chip built by Felica. Of course, there's all this reference. We can get into it a little bit more. But when you get into the next part of this, check this out for you guys to South. I mean, this is interpreted from Japanese to, of course, English. I mean, it's not spawn on perfect. Let's just be honest about that, but it's okay. This part, the tech to realize strict online identity verification using DMM FX by my number cards. Now, people will point out that, hey, man, you have to keep in mind that, it's different industries. There's no direct impact on Jasmy. But you also got to keep in mind that there is some connections here, okay? And that is both promote security, both will improve in their own respective fields. What I also gathered was the whole thing of like Japan itself, the technological landscape of this, increased use of online identity verification systems is going to, it's going to contribute to more digital and secure environment, basically, for Japan. I mean, at the end of the day, we are talking about Japan. We want to take this thing global. I get that. But you guys got to keep in mind, this is going to indirectly benefit, and that's everybody's key takeaway, indirectly benefiting the companies like Jasmy that focus on what? Data security solutions. So my thing is this, I don't need to get an official announcement from Apple. I think it's a case of supply and demand. When we go back to the root, the founding functions of Jasmy and realizing that they are the first to be regulatory compliant in a country that's way more strict than anything that we could fathom here in the United States, I say to myself, all right, action, reaction. The action is the underlying tech and that utility. When we look at the PDL in itself, and like what Brian was also talking about, like what was it, 104, 107 million users goal and so on. It's like, okay, you don't necessarily need that official mention because you can totally see the writing on the wall that it's the functionality of this tech, whether it's IoT, whether it's some of these other functions. Heck, how about even finance democracy, which we know all the recent things that have been posted and shared. I know I don't have the screen up right now. I'm going to actually jump back to this just for everybody's kind of catching up on this. This is also cited from IC Amphibian. I think this is on the screen as we speak. Yes, it is. This was also not that, I covered this myself. Some of you guys probably talked about this. This was on May 23rd about how Hara talked about how they plan to utilize Jasmy for payment on Junction. Also mentions that they're implementing governance and other functions in regards to Jasmy's tech. But guys, governance, utility, the whole idea of being able to use Jasmy for payments with Junction's platform, scaling it up, DPIN times AI. But again, governance. Jasmy itself does in fact suggest that token holders have seen the future development of the Jasmy ecosystem. Where do we take this from here? Well, it's the integration of this. From what I've also gathered, it's to integrate this by December of 2024. I don't know if you guys caught up on it. I'm sure Brian, maybe Jasmy US and so on. But also, we understand there's market volatility, but I think we can all agree for the most part that Junction is the solution to this because let's face it, you're not going to get done on just regular ERC20. Jason's the answer to that. So for me, while I'm with you, Brian, you know, this is not like me stepping on your toes, but I have nothing but respect for you guys, by the way. But it's just recognizing that I don't need to see that in my face, just like I didn't need to necessarily see Panic Sonic say, you know what, yeah, we're using Jasmy. And then we saw the flutters saying, yep, guess what? And it wasn't mentioned about Jasmy. It's like, yep, pump the brakes on that, okay? Because guess what? What happened literally like a week later? Official announcement from who? Panasonic literally cited on their site. Back to one of you guys.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. They were there was a lot of haters with the Panasonic thing, and you know, even like I'd even done a video sharing the post on their website, and people were still, you know, just kind of, and that people are going to be that way, right? I mean, people get stuck in their echo chambers, whether positive or negative, and they're just going to, whether the proof's right in front of their face or not. And that's why a lot of people, I feel, are going to miss out on the big picture of Jasmy. That's why, again, it leads back to me just not selling 50% of my bag, because what we're really investing in here is potential, right? At the end of the day. And it's not about, you know, where will the price go and stuff. It's, you know, for me, it's the potential of this company as a whole. I've said it multiple times. People ask me how I got into Jasmy, and it was actually because of Fudders that I got into Jasmy in the first place. Because a lot like you guys, when I hear something, I kind of got to know the truth, right? So now I got to go look at it and see, right? So I started doing. This was back when the price rugged for Jasmy, you know, and they introduced the supply into circulation, and so it was going, you know, viral. Oh, Jasmy rugged and it's a scam and blah blah blah, right? So I was like, I got to know more. And then the first thing I did was I went and looked at the team, right? One of the first things, and I was like, I don't know if this is a scam, man, right? And the more I dug, I was like, I think there's something to this, man. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'm on board with this. And it just, again, the more I dove over the last few years, the more I dove, the further and further it got away from, you know, this is a scam. And, you know, it's too bad more people don't actually do their research and stuff.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in just because, you know, we've been talking.
Jesse, what do you think about everything?
Spencer, go ahead, Spencer. You go first.
I think Brian has a little bit of delay or something, but go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good, guys. Yeah, I mean, it's very similar still to what we've been talking about on the Jasmy spaces, right? Like, even just recently, Joe Biden, he vetoed a bill with, you know, financial custody and crypto, and that's kind of one of the things we've been talking about, the themes of uncertainty with crypto in the United States, right? And it still seems like, you know, the current government's kind of fighting and kind of wishy-washy about, well, do we want to really embrace it, or are we going to just kind of try to stifle it down? That's why Jasmy is so important, because, you know, in Japan, the prime minister, he's been resolute about making sure that they're digitizing their country. They're embracing an economic recovery because they need to, frankly. You know, it's been so long since they've created something that's really boosted their economy. And I did just want to share real quick, I'll present on here the My Number info. Let me see here. Screen. Oh, man, I got like all these preferences. Maybe I need to set it up first, but basically it's saying it's used for, let me pull it up, social insurance, tax, and disaster countermeasures within Japan. So if you're a foreign national going to Japan, you would basically be issued this. I kind of equate it to like a social security card in the United States. It's not the same, but, you know, it's a similar idea that everyone receives one who's living there. And this is super bullish, right? If you're following the trend of what they're working on in Japan, it makes sense that they're going to digitize, right, the My Number system. They're going to integrate it into something like Apple for the future. And really, we wouldn't know this information, right? There would be so many NDAs with, you know, Jasmy and Apple and Hara. It's not like Hara is going to be able to just go out and say, you know, we're partnered with Apple on Twitter. Like, there's no way that that's going to happen, right? So there's just a lot of really bullish news coming out of like the East and utility. I think one of the big things too is we've been talking about utility. Like, the utility of Jasmy is so important. And I truly still believe that coins with utility will lead the bull run. And this kind of is an example right now with what's going on with JASMY. We're seeing all the different connections with Junction, you know, Panasonic, My Number. It really is kind of just starting to come together in the development of their ecosystem. So, you know, if you've been listening since 2021 to like with all the Black Swan stuff, like we've been saying that, and you know, people have done their due diligence. I think they're kind of realizing, okay, like these projects that have a use case for future society, right? With IoT ingraining in our tech, like I think it's going to be big, and we're just starting to see that with JASMY leading the way. And you know, it's cool to see. I feel like we're kind of getting validated a little bit after hanging out these past few years, and you know, just looking forward to seeing where it's going.
What do you think, Jesse? You talk too much.
Thanks. Yeah, you know, vindication, right? That's kind of what I feel about this. I don't know about you guys, but you know, pretty much everybody who knows me in my personal life knows I've been talking about this thing for years. and to this date, that a lot of them still have no bag in it, and they're just like, yeah, you know, crypto. Like one of my buddies told me today, he said, crypto's not really doing anything. I mean, Bitcoin. I said, yeah, I guess not. Like, all right, man, you know, you could have found this one a long time ago. I think, you know, the credit in that statement, it's not like a braggadocious thing. It's more so like, I mean, I've seen Brian's Discord like heavily, like there's so much information in there. I mean, you know, I don't know if anybody in the community truly grasps how much research like Brian, Dip, some of these people that have put into that Discord. It's just insane. And so, you know, credit to you guys for doing that. You know, I think that's really huge. And, you know, that's kind of pushed me to have some of the conviction that I do in this. But anyway, I wrote down a bunch of kind of random notes on this after kind of listening to everybody. So one thing, typically, and I kind of referenced this in a post I did, is if there's going to be an official announcement of anything, it's going to be on their official website. There's an area there with press releases, and that's where they post everything. So if this is officially being announced, it would be announced there. Now, I do agree in the sense that I don't view this as a direct partnership with Apple. It's kind of an indirect partnership with Apple. And that's huge in itself. But more so, I think what's even more important, and, you know, Brian really kind of drove this home early on years ago, was kind of like the government aspect here, right? Like we've got the government of Japan basically putting out a partnership with Apple publicly, and then they are pushing technology that JASMY is directly involved in. And so we like going back in time, there's a lot of government overlap with JASMY. There's Apple overlap with JASMY with Sony. And you know, it's kind of like if you looked at it like if we were all on the highway going the same direction, I feel like these different groups have all crossed paths multiple times. But I truly think the government part of it is even more impressive than the Apple part of it. You know, like to put it in context, like here in the US, I mean, this would be like having, you know, Joe Biden talk about Ford or something like that, right? I mean, it kind of goes down that same pathway, except this is Japan. So I think that's really important. Now, another thing here that I want to bring up is that I've been saying for a long time, you know, I think it's great that JASMY's ambitious. I understand that they want to go global. I get it that they're former Sony and they're used to marketing global, but you got to make it in Japan first, right? Like you got to make it at home. I need the people at home to know about you also, right? Now, granted, to get their big numbers, technically I don't, but I would rather see them make it in Japan before we're, you know, pushing to make it in all these other countries. And what I really like about this announcement is this is a at-home Japan announcement. And going with that whole Felica idea, you know, if they can kind of replace the Felica card and, you know, get in on the train system, et cetera, even better, right? And so you can see already that JASMY is there, and whether it's directly or there or not isn't really the point, but the patented technology is there indirectly through the CyberTrust partnership. So that's absolutely huge in my opinion. Now, one last point I want to make here, I know I made a few of them. One last point is I have seen a few different posts talking about DWF Labs and the different moves that they've been making, buying, selling JASMY, and how there's something like $9 million up in their investment. What I really like about that is JASMY really didn't start moving until DWF Labs got involved. And they got involved because when JASMY wanted, when Binance bought Sakura Exchange in Japan and they were listing JASMY, JASMY met with them and they told them, hey, we don't like to see a coin that basically goes down and loses all its value and doesn't have any liquidity. And they said, hey, maybe you should try using this market maker. That's probably the best move that Hara ever made. Okay, because if you look at the way it's moved ever since they did that, it's been on fire. And so my point in all of that is simply that I think you can't understate that, and it's really good to know that DWF Labs is still involved. Whatever you think about them, whether you think they're shady and wash trading, or whether you think they're legitimate in market making, you know, in the eye of the beholder. But I think it's worth noting that they made some significant moves lately that are kind of corresponding with these various runs we've been on.
I think they're definitely a relevant market maker for sure. I mean, enough so that Binance even has their own category in terms of what's in their portfolio, right? Under their categories list. But I just wanted to hit a couple of the super chats real quick here, guys. Filipino Ice Cube says, JASMY, absolutely, brother. Thank you so much. And Elon Muff in the house. What's going on, buddy? That Muff, though, JASMY to $20. Wouldn't that be something, eh?
He's got the best name in all the crypto. You know?
Yeah, love that name.
Bro, which band did you just hear last night? I went down and saw Elon Muff. JASMY to the moon. Yeah.
I got a question here. Hey, everyone, quick question. Does anyone know when how about, who's got some clarity? Does anybody have any kind of concept of, there's so much, you know, speculation about this lockup. Is it a monthly thing? Like I was listening to Dip's last Spaces on X, and he was talking about he was thinking that in the future they may actually increase the amount that they lock up on a monthly basis. Like, what? Like, does anybody have any kind of opinion on where we stand with this whole thing? Because it's obviously another question coming up as we get close. As now we're in June 1st. It's been 30 days since they locked up that first 100 million, right? So anybody want to chime in on that?
I can, unless somebody else wanted to go ahead and jump in. All right.
It's all you, brother.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so just glancing at the roadmap here, I know I can share stuff on the screen, but I haven't used StreamYard in a couple of years, so not even going to attempt to lag things on a show. But if you go to my X profile, I have pinned the script rather from the actual roadmap. So for a few things, they had under the second slide on the roadmaps under tokenomics, they had the lockup, exchange-linked lockup feature Q1. We know that they did that with 100 million JASMY with BitPoint. So this is all being tested. And if you look at what else they have on their roadmap, I would consider that the 100 million is probably also going to be used for testing other things within their actual system with the wallet and everything else. So for right now, you know, Hara had mentioned that they're going to start with 100 million. You know, this is a test. So they're probably going to continue with that 100 million JASMY on BitPoint, because this is BitPoint is a Japanese exchange for those who aren't aware. And do a lot of the other testing that they have on their roadmap utilizing that lockup amount. Because what they're doing is they're very strict with their laws in Japan. on having proof of reserves, essentially. So what this does, this lockup function, it allows them to lock up 100 million JASMY, and then for layman's terms, materialize 100 million JASMY within the actual platform itself. So this is just a one-to-one function. They have a lot of other things on the roadmap, but there's no, I would say we'll probably know some more by the end of the year, but based on how things typically go, these roadmaps aren't even necessarily meant for us. They're just kind of just given to us because, you know, they have to do something with everyone in the community in terms of keeping us up to date. But we typically won't get much follow-up with the roadmap. They're not going to have a checklist of, oh, we just completed this, we just completed that. I mean, you have to think what they're working on creating is a data security company for global user data through multiple major brand type of companies within finance, entertainment, you name it. So we typically aren't going to hear about the developmental process. We may hear some more stuff by the end of the year, but I'd say that this may be it for a little while anyway, at least maybe through this year. I'm not 100% certain. That's just my take on it. So, but we have no idea. There is no announcement as to when more lockups will happen. Hara also has to be careful because, you know, there's some things he does that we're like, why would you retweet that price prediction thing? He's just trying to be supportive, even though it does get a little annoying at times. But he has to be careful what he says and what he talks about, and if he's giving trading signals. So that's all we know right now.
Yeah, I talked about before with Jesse. We talked about how the background of the team is that of people who are used to the stock market, right? And I think that the communities, when it comes to crypto, is a completely different beast than it is with stocks. And as we've seen, right, people like Hara, being such an influential person when it comes to JASMY, can retweet something innocently, and that can just take on a life of its own, right? And I don't think he gets that concept of it, really, because you don't see that in stocks, right? So
I'm glad you mentioned that, Rob, because, you know, if you remember the 8th year anniversary, you know, it was Dip, Brian, right? You guys were addressing that, you know, that the whole thing of like, because, you know, KPI got brought up and so on. It's like, look, like we never had any, you know, JASMY management team had never like dealt with like this particular thing before, right? So you had to have something to base it off of. So that's why it was written up that way. Dab to you, Brian. I know Dip's not here, but, you know, you guys did an excellent job of discussing that. You know, you guys are always welcome to check out, you know, not just myself, but some of these other guys, like old recordings, videos, and reference to that to have a better understanding about that, because there is a difference, you know, and at the end of the day, it's like you have to have something to reference. That's what they referenced. Is it going to be spot on in regards to everything? Well, back to what Brian just said. I mean, you saw, for example, Hara, you know, he has to be kind of careful with some of that. That makes sense. You know, you don't want to, you know, tick off Gensler or something and whatnot. But in reality, we're talking about Japan. I mean, they have a totally different model, if you will. You know, I always talk about Genki Oda and so on, but still, I think, you know, they even recognize that there's other players who are part of the whole mix, and, you know, how do you go about things and so on? How do you word things? How's it going to get lost in translation, especially when it comes to, you know, Japanese to English? But anyway, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. Thoughts on this, guys? Mr. X is seriously getting annoyed JASMY in the monitoring zone still. I'm kind of the same opinion as Dip there, and where it's in the big picture. I mean, JASMY has been excelling, you know, regardless. So, but part of me does kind of feel like, you know, the Panasonic partnership. I mean, JASMY has gone in the matter of what we'll say 2 months for argument's sake, is gone from like a $850 million market cap to a $1.76 billion today. you know, at right now, as of right now, 544, almost 545 million in 24-hour trading volume. It's shot up to 61st in market cap. How do you really justify keeping it in the monitoring zone any further?
I mean, for crying out loud, it's higher market cap than my beloved Stellar. It's higher market cap than Fetch, and I believe these are solid projects as well. It's like Binance. I mean, it's like I don't know if they really keep up with all what we're keeping up with. Let's just be honest. You know, from a community point of view, probably the answer is no. But it's also like I would completely agree and understand and respect the frustration in that regard. But Jasmy, as we know, guys, is so much bigger than a monitoring zone flag and so on. And we've seen that. I mean, this thing has absolutely exploded in market cap. I mean, in reality, for those that are new to this space, while you know you may know about like Jasmy hitting 499 in the past, and you think that's all time highs. Why is everybody so excited? It's market cap. We are at all time highs for market cap. There is a lot to be celebrated in that regard for that.
What do we got? Thoughts on the Prime Minister of Japan mentioning the Apple partnership? I think Jesse kind of touched on that a little bit. It's definitely bullish. In my opinion, to get that kind of recognition, you know, from the Prime Minister of Japan for sure, right? But yeah.
Yeah, but not the. He did not mention Jasmy. Just
no, he mentioned,
so everyone listening is clear. We all pretty much see the writing on the wall, but there's no statement that says that from either party.
Right, absolutely. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Actually, hang on a second, I'm trying to find.
Yeah, that's a nice little HUD you got there. A nice view of all this, right? Anyway.
The Panasonic, where are they here? So I can find it. No, that's not it. The Panasonic, Jesse had shared it earlier today there. They got the...
You're talking about the mobile vehicles.
Yes. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Those are being manufactured by Panasonic, aren't they?
So here was my big takeaway from that one, is if you looked at that, I think the account that posted that, again, was the government of Japan, right? And it's directly, Japan government, and it's all about these vehicles that are basically going to be robotic, autonomous. They're going to drop off packages, kind of like Amazon, whatever. And it's going to be done by Panasonic, but it's being promoted by the government of Japan. So again, it's another one within a week, a second government of Japan promotion that Jasmy is basically indirectly involved in without being named. I think it's a really big deal.
I think it's a very big deal. I'm glad that Jesse brought that up because, guys, anybody's tuning in right now, I want you guys to understand this. You will see, and I know I say this a lot, action, reaction, but that's where it's all about. Stocks, crypto, so on and so forth. It is action, reaction, supply, and demand. What did we see when Jasmy finally went from, and don't quote me on the exact number, I'm going to say 0.0056s roughly in that area, to boom, over a penny, to boom, a penny and a half, 2 cents. Now we're at 3.5 cents. Everybody's like, man, we're just going to go to 4 cents and so on. Again, it's some of the things that is mentioned or promoted, like Jesse said, from the government, that you don't see them literally say verbatim, Jasmy, but it's like, okay, who's the one that has the compliance going on? Who's the one that, you know, if you have to narrow it down to one specific utility for the future, I guess you could say, who has crossed their T's and dotted their I's, as the saying goes. There's a reason why it's called the Bitcoin in Japan. It has nothing really to do with Bitcoin, but it's understanding it's the first. So my thing is this. I guess you could say, you know, I didn't know, Spencer, nice meeting you, by the way, that you're a fellow teacher. Awesome. But it's learning something here. So in the past, we saw like semiconductors, that news that got dropped, boom, you saw Jasmy take off and it moved against the market. During that time, on that first catalyst, the whole market was down. And everyone's like, wow, look at Jasmy running against the market. I covered this. Quite a few of our, you know, members of our research consortium have covered this. And that is, we have been studying and following what's going on with Elon Musk. He has a legitimate data privacy problem that exists for what X has for Japan. Okay, that's the bottom line. Anybody can Google this, simple search. Japan is X's second largest market behind the United States. So with that said, it's like, I honestly am going to call it right now. I don't care. I don't care if people don't agree with this or not. I'm free to, be myself too. It's like this whole thing of I can't have freedom of thought. Check this out. I honestly think, and if everybody else is not on board on this, that's fine. But when X finally tackles that data privacy issue, I would not be surprised at all to see Jasmy get sent even with that. And people, of course, will still point out, just like we're pointing out right now, well, you didn't get that official announcement from Elon Musk or the X platform. Again, it's what's indirectly tied in the Japanese government, promoting, unofficially speaking, back to like what Jesse was saying, what's under the hood, if you will. Anybody else have thoughts about this? I would love to hear it.
What do you think, Jesse? Or Spencer, whichever. I saw you unlike your.
I'll jump in real quick and yeah, nice to meet you too, Max. I finally haven't gotten a chance to join a video with you, but I've been watching your videos for a long time now and appreciate all that you do putting out content. Sorry, my cat decided to be extremely needy and jump up on me while I'm doing this, so I'm just like, all right, this is Larry, everyone.
It's all good. You got a nice looking cat, man.
Yeah, but in terms of the Panasonic stuff, I think it's really cool because it goes down to the idea again of data. What's needed in all this? Your data, right? So if they're going to be delivering packages from the post office, right, you're going to need information from them as well as yourself. You're going to need information from, let's say, if they incorporate that in food delivery, right, like different apps like DoorDash, Uber Eats. You're going to need data from there. You're going to need data from UPS, all these different areas. And it just kind of ties into the idea of Jasmy, like, hey, we need a user-friendly way to share and license your data to all these different companies and agencies that, again, covers that data privacy issue. I completely agree, Max, that, hey, there's so many issues with data leaks constantly. Elon is going to have to deal with that as well. And that's really why, a lot of us got into Jasmy, is the idea that you own your own data and are able to license it. And not only that, get an incentive to license your data. I mean, I think the idea in itself is brilliant, and Jasmy seems to be really focusing on tackling that. And you just look in with the government, what they're doing, all these different things, like with the technology being deployed, it makes total sense. And I agree with you, Max. I think once, Elon, all these social media companies really figure out a way to create, your data to be safe and secure, like it's going to boom projects like Jasmy that are really focusing on this. So I agree, it all ties in together, and it's coming along nicely because all these major tech companies, especially with Elon, he's going to realize that they can't just be leaking information all the time. Like there has to be some type of solution. And, that kind of ties into the other projects with Binance and the Innovation Zone. I know we talked about that, and it should be removed, frankly, because when it was first put in, we were put in with, FTT and VGX. So like Sam Bankman-Fried and Voyager's dead token, right? It makes no sense that Jasmy was put in there, and hopefully Binance does the right thing and removes that as well, just to kind of tie up what you guys were talking about. But yeah, I think once that data privacy issue becomes more mainstream and solutions become more mainstream, I think Jasmy is going to boom as well, for sure.
Hey, what's up, Spencer? It's good to see you, man. We haven't been on a call together in quite some time. But yeah, I agree with what you were saying as well. One of the things with the whole Binance Innovation Zone to begin with that I brought up in the past was that if they deserved to be put in it, it was before they got put in it. Like they just completed a manager buyout from the previous management that heavily diluted and caused a lot of the price depreciation for reasons that were separate from the management's intentions with the original tokenomics. So that's why They did a whole manager buyout. And after they got all that complete, Hara's getting more active. He's doing all these different things. Then Binance decides to put him in the innovation zone. It's like, no, that should have happened last year while everyone was getting screwed with dilution. Not after they finish dilution, buy out the entire company and are running it themselves, or not. They're running it anyway, but now they have ownership. So beyond that, I'm with Dip. I mean, I think July looks like a strong contender for them getting released from the innovation zone. But it's to be determined. I'm not really that worried about it, to be honest. They got listed on Binance Japan while they were in the innovation zone. So just kind of let that sink in, that a subsidiary of the parent in another country listed them. And it's in a country where the laws and regulations are far more stringent than anywhere else in the world for at least for, G20, G7 member. But the fact that they were listed on Binance Japan, which you can find, they're listed on BitGet, which is Huobi Japan, BitPoint Japan, and Binance Japan are their three nationally based exchanges they're listed on. So the fact that they were listed on Binance Japan while they were in the innovation zone, and having to have gone through all the vetting processes through the JVCEA and the Financial Services Agency of Japan, really to me only shows that either something is just being puppeted in the background and things are just being maneuvered, and the face of it's like, oh no, we're in the innovation zone, when it might have been for reasons that we'll never be told about, which would be, manipulation. But then again, there's not really global regulation to begin with. So we can't really complain what Binance is doing as a group company versus what we see them doing in Japan, which is completely different, which is actually putting out their reports on a yearly basis, auditing all their tokens. They have less tokens on all of their exchanges combined in Japan than any average exchange does outside of Japan. So in terms of individuals, so they're very stringent with everything. And the fact that Japan is leading the way for G7 and G20 companies, especially G7 with Data Free Flow with Trust and Digital Transformation Society 5.0, I just think that it's a matter of time before we actually see them released from the innovation zone. I think the whole thing's just kind of whatever to begin with. I know we all want the price to fly, but we're going to have to expect random roadblocks and unforeseen events when we're dealing with a wild west of a global system for trading cryptocurrency. And literally nothing is valued based on its fundamentals, unless you want to consider Bitcoin. But technically, in the white paper, it doesn't talk about Bitcoin being used as a store of value. That's just how it ended up being. So I can't really say that anything is really valued on its fundamentals in crypto in general, which we should hopefully start seeing between 26 and 2030, leading up to 2030 is when we'll start seeing a lot more things come to fruition. And you'll really see how a lot of different cryptos, not just Jasmy in general, are being used in the background. People don't know they're using them, but it actually gives you some sort of valuation to base it on. And I think a lot of this stuff we're worrying about now, basically be like, nobody would have even heard of what we're talking about.
I know that we have a lot to discuss, but I do want to just throw in my own 2 cents. And I actually want to hear from Spencer, Jesse, Rob, about what Brian just mentioned. So you mentioned, Brian, in regards to Binance, that, nobody will really know the real reason why Jasmy got thrown into that innovation zone. At the time, and I know a lot of people have forgotten about this, and if, again, to anybody just tuning in, this might be completely new to you, okay? But it's Binance, what was it, Greenfield, right? If I'm not mistaken, Greenfield. Do you feel, Brian, and again, everybody else, please chime in, do you feel as though that Greenfield was a coincidence, or was that the defining moment for manipulation? Because a lot of us, from even like a retail point of view, right, community members and so on, that was the general consensus that I gathered. Like, I can't speak on 100% of everybody, but I would say a vast, large, majority of the community felt that way. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it was was pretty. The timing was odd that with Greenfield. I'm almost certain it's Greenfield. We're just gonna say Greenfield. We'll rebrand it for him if you're wrong. But
yeah, it's been a while. I get it.
Yeah. But yeah, Greenfield was just as a layman's term explanation, a data marketplace project for Binance, essentially. And that was announced right around the same time that JASMY was put in the innovation zone. I think they were put in the innovation zone before it was officially announced, but it was leading up to it. And, you know, there had been teaser announcements, et cetera, if memory serves correctly. It's too hard to really know, because why JASMY? Why not some of these other type of, you know, there is only one JASMY with what they're doing, but there are other crypto and blockchain companies that are dealing with data, IoT devices, doing their own marketplaces. It's just the way JASMY is doing it is very unique. And in my opinion, a correct way of doing it, because they have decades of experience from gentlemen who have run blue chip stock companies that are global through Sony, et cetera. So I've thought about that. It just doesn't, for me, it feels like somebody was trying to control price is all it felt like to me. I don't know who, I don't know why. I personally, and I know there'll be a varied belief in the community, especially people who have lost money, but I personally don't think that JASMY or the management themselves, the Sony, former Sony members and management, have any type of intention to do any type of market manipulation with JASMY whatsoever, nor do I think that they've dumped anyone or done any of that stuff themselves. I do know a lot of things about the previous owner through Bellwood and the whole JASMY Foundation fiasco. A lot of you might remember from 2022. That was, to my knowledge, and from what I've discussed with Hara, he even posted about it at that time, saying that they were completely hamstrung and trying to figure out what to do. So I just think that, you know, with, again, having mentioned previously just a few minutes ago, we're in an unregulated global atmosphere where you still have companies just that are registered, like in is it Seychelles? I always mispronounce that. Those islands that you always see a random company with no direct management listed and
Seychelles.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jesse. I always say it wrong. Dip always corrects me. But you know, even market makers, et cetera, like, we can't see exactly what we're doing, what their intentions are with what they're doing. A lot of people speculate on DWF manipulating markets. I mean, that's still, you can see money go from one place to another, like to an exchange on Etherscan. You can see it come back to them. You can see what the price did, but you have no idea why they actually did that. And unless you took it to court, we wouldn't know. So, I mean, I can speculate all day. I can put tinfoil hats on and everything else. I just don't see this as a long-term big deal. But I do agree with everyone that, you know, if we were taken out of the innovation zone, we should see a nice price increase from that. So I just don't know that it was the Greenfield thing. That to me would say that CZ or the board in general saw JASMY as such a threat, and they know a lot of things we don't know, to their Greenfield project, that they did that. But back then, JASMY was, I mean, it was around, I think 150th, 130th, somewhere in there. I think we maybe just breached the top 100 right when they put us in the innovation zone, somewhere around there. So, I mean, it was just kind of coming up when all that happened, but they don't have any actual working thing to show for it yet. Everything is still in trials and proof of concept and testing with companies. So that's all I got. I could ramble on, but that's all I'm doing right now. So I'm going to stop.
All I know is when that whole thing dropped, right? It was just like all the flutters coming out like cockroaches, right? All over the place, scattering. And now that we have all this, you know, all-time high for market cap goes, right? It is literally crickets. And I'll just leave it at that.
Well, yeah, so, and I'll just say real quick, it was manipulation, 100%. We had the momentum going. We just, I think, cracked like top 100, like Brian said. Hara made a post about it. Then all of a sudden, boom, innovation zone. And then, wait a minute, here's BNB Greenfield. It just felt like, you know, CZ really saw JASMY as a threat. maybe not to exactly their company, but as a competition, right? It felt like they had the advantage and they wanted to try to bring it down. And we've talked about the unregulation. CZ's kind of facing the consequences from that now, right? He's the OG crypto gangster, and he wins no matter what. And unfortunately, he got caught up, I think, a little bit too much in getting involved in stuff like that. So he's dealing with that right now. But if Richard Tang is objectively looking at the projects that are in the innovation zone, especially with the group that got put in with JASMY, it makes no sense that JASMY's in there with these like exchange tokens and projects that just don't have management working on it. So hopefully, the right thing happens eventually, but it just felt so manipulated. And I think everyone could kind of see that, really.
Can we all agree that, CZ is now the one in his own monitoring zone?
Well played, sir. Well played. Just wanted to acknowledge real quick, Travis there with the super chat says new microphone fund started for Rob. I guess I got to pick up a new microphone. It's the general consensus.
Well, hold on a second. Go ahead.
Temu.
Yeah, I'm wondering where to pick one up. Like, what would be the best company to pick one up?
You don't have to spend like too much nowadays. A lot of stuff manufactured in China is based on either expired patents or they don't care. So it generally works pretty good for cheap. If you're going to use it all the time, you might want to get a better one. But I barely use this. So.
Well, another thing to consider is, Rob, do you actually have a studio mic as we speak?
Nope.
Okay, because I was going to say, like, even when I first started, it's like, yeah, I have the studio mic, but it doesn't sound studio. And I had to just go in and change the settings to, make it sound pretty good. Looks like Jesse is the one over there with the studio mic and all those nice guitars and everything, not too shabby.
True statement. But I would frame it like this. You got to level up, right? It doesn't happen at the very beginning. It doesn't happen overnight. And I've been through probably 6, 7, 8 microphones before I finally, bit the bullet and got this one. So
can we do, what's that? Go ahead.
Because I remember when I first started, I actually was actually just doing videos. If you go way back over a year ago or so, I actually started doing videos just on my phone, right? So I've come a long way in a short time.
Can we do something fun now that we just wrapped up the whole thing with the monitoring zone?
Well, I have one more thing to talk about with the monitoring zone.
Okay, go ahead. My bad. I'm sorry. I did want to hear from you and then, Jesse and so on. So.
Yeah, there was two things. The first one was there was something that sticks in my craw about it, and it's something I read about that Hara had said in I think his last AMA when he was asked about the innovations of the monitoring zone, and he said that he actually met with representatives from Binance at ETH Denver, right? And then what he came away with that was we don't have all the answers yet, but we'll stay in communication. And what bothered me about it is if you met with them, why is Binance not providing you with all the answers you need to get out of the innovation? How do you walk away from that without all the answers? That's kind of bothers me a little bit when it comes to Binance.
Their partnership with DWF was suggested by people at Binance, according to Hara. Likewise, he's been working with people in the Binance marketing department since he got put in there. I remember, Jesse, you were there last May when Hara did his first voice AMA with us. Was it Discord? I think it was Discord. That's right. It was Tycho's Discord. But he's been working with them. And if you actually look at who people in Binance marketing are, like on Twitter, I follow a lot of different people at Binance who I think may have an impact on this, and they all follow Hara, so they're watching them. They know what's going on. Again, it's too tough to really understand the quiet part that's not being said out loud, like what's going on.
The other thing I was gonna. Oh, go ahead, Jess.
Let me comment on this. I kind of agree with Spencer on this. I think it's just simply textbook manipulation from Binance, period. If you look at it like, okay, what's the purpose of this innovation zone? It surely isn't to protect the consumer, because the moment they made that move, JASMY plummeted from being within the top 100 to well out of it, right? And I think for a lot of people who are new or maybe don't really deep dive into this stuff, Binance is like it's like a holding company, right? So there are numerous other companies under the umbrella. And how I've kind of summed this up before is he's not just selling you the shovels for the gold rush, right? He's selling you the train tickets. He's putting you up in a place to stay. He's putting your kids into school. He owns the grocery store. He runs the post office. He's got everything, right? So, going back to Max talking about Greenfield, could there have been something there that kind of created a conflict? I think there are numerous conflicts under the Binance umbrella that if you actually dug into them, they're probably violating numerous laws all across the globe with their various conflicts. And I think this is probably one of them. So I kind of view the whole thing kind of like the Morpheus view on this. I don't believe in coincidence. I think they did it on purpose. And when Hara has spoken about it, it's kind of like, well, Binance has a laundry list of 15 things that you might have done wrong. Which one of those 15 it is, we don't know. They will not confirm which point it is. They will not confirm how you fix that particular point and get out of the zone. They've also never told us, this is another good point, is are you in the zone for 3 months? Are you in the zone for 6 months? Is it an annual review? Is it biannual? Nobody knows. This is just something a company made up.
Sounds like Gary Gensler to me.
Hey, it does kind of sound like Gary, right? Gary, our boy Gary the Clown. Anyways, I kind of think the whole thing is very shady. And if this was an entirely regulated space, I don't think it would have happened. There's a reason that CZ just checked into prison today, yesterday, whenever it was. So he'll be away for about 4 months, not tweeting. Tier, right? We'll see him when he gets out and he can talk about NFTs. Great. But in the meantime, something to note here is that JASMY is still adding liquidity across new exchanges. Like I think they posted 2 or 3 in the last week. They keep doing it, and I don't know if it was Max or Brian brought this up earlier. Just like Bitcoin, right? Like when you think about Bitcoin, it's everywhere. It is on every exchange, everywhere. JASMY is the only other crypto I've ever seen do that, to get everywhere. So on the liquidity front, I think they're doing great. They did DWF Labs on the suggestion of Binance, but when they get out of the innovation zone is anyone's guess.
Yeah, I do remember mentioning that. I did cover that a while back. I was like, look at all the pairings, look at all these exchanges, and it's just like it's pretty much across the board.
Another thing that Jesse, I know you and I have talked about when it comes to being in the monitoring zone is that when they first went in, I mean, there were some valid reasons, right? And you and I have discussed them. I mean, their website was atrocious, right? For starters, they didn't have a blockchain website per se, right? And no real blockchain expert. Another thing, like we don't have a Charles Hoskinson, we don't have a David Schwartz type person out there for the company, right? And these, I mean, I guess these could be decided, some of these factors that come into play. That's a question I get asked all the time. Well, who's a blockchain expert for JASMY, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think if you look at crypto in general, there's a playbook that 99% of all the projects follow. They have the same exact template of a website. They have the catalyst person. They met at a hackathon. They kind of have the same general goals. And then you look at JASMY and they're kind of coming at it from a completely different direction somewhere else entirely. It's almost like it's like if a team in the XFL was trying to join the NFL. That's kind of like what this is like. Like they were never in the league with everybody else. They view it from a standpoint of being device makers with big time corporate relationships, government connections, educational, collegiate backgrounds that are highly connected. That's where they're coming from. And so I think for somebody like Binance, it's maybe a little weird, especially when, I always kind of envision, and I could be totally wrong, but I might be right. It could be, I always think of like this intern that's like 20 years old over at Binance, and he's the guy who's in charge of the innovation zone. JASMY, he looks it up, he doesn't find shit, put him in, and in they go. And it's like, dude, did you research? Did you really look into anything? Well, I went to their website, right? And I couldn't find anything. There's no blockchain stats, so looks fake to me. Throw it in there, right? And really, the guy didn't do any research at all. And once you actually start looking at these partnerships, they are all very real. And so, again, I kind of agree, I think, with Brian that down the road, no one's going to care about this whole innovation zone thing, and it's going to be in the background somewhere, long gone. But for now, it's ridiculous. And everybody who posts about it, they always tag the new CEO, like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And I don't know. He's just kind of following the same playbook, and he's not going to deviate from it. So who knows if and when they get out of there, but does it really matter? Probably not.
Yeah, 100%. We got this from Kevin. Says, thoughts on the PDL only on iPhone, Android users coming soon. Yeah, so that's something that I talked with Little Bidman briefly about it, because he had posted a picture that he created a PDL account on an Apple. I guess it's in Japanese, and we have a community member named Crypto Queen, and she actually shared a translated version of how to translate it over on our Discord and stuff. But so, like, does anybody have an opinion? Maybe Brian, you have an opinion or any kind of an outlook on what's going on with this?
Yeah, I know what LBM's talking about. I registered for that PDL, I think, 2 years ago on the website, which was a little annoying because you have to do some sort of CAPTCHA where or did anyway, I don't know what it is like now, where what you have to type is in Japanese, kanji and katakana, which isn't on my keyboard. So I had to actually screenshot that image of the words, then Google Lens it, then capture the text, and then paste it back into it. But it's because it was for Japan only. But this PDL can actually be created for the Seigen Tosu app, which is on the iPhone itself. Again, we're reading the writing on the wall when we say that, JASMY's PDLs will be like for iPhone and for Android. That just kind of seems obvious based on a lot of research that all of us have done that's kind of been put out there. There's no, once again, just to be clear to everyone, there's no direct confirmation that JASMY has partnered with Apple through that, just to reiterate for anybody joining. But yeah, Android would be probably the first way to go. Apple just happens to have the biggest type of buzz around it, so to speak, more so than Android. But if you're talking about expanding from Japan to Southeast Asia, your best bet is Android for gaining PDL users, not the iPhone, so to speak. Based on stats I've looked up a while ago in terms of iPhone users to Android in various areas of Southeast Asia, it's considerably more for Android. And a lot of, so I think Andy Grove was the person who created the Android system before he sold it to Google. And he is from, I believe he used to work at General Magic, which was a elite arm of Apple, so to speak, that kind of broke off into its own type of R&D based company. They came up with the iPhone at General Magic back in the early 90s. So they've been developing a lot of stuff, and Andy Grove was a part of that. So was the president and CEO of Intel Japan, Suzuki. Suzuki, this is a Nikkei article I found, but Suzuki and Andy Grove actually used to work together at a co-creation lab at General Magic in the 90s, because the Suzuki is a former Sony manager as well. They're Sony executive. And Sony actually was the first company to buy into General Magic. So they were one of the first owners of it when they spun off from Apple. So when you start looking at all these things, Andy Grove, he's not in the limelight anymore after hashtag Me Too fiasco that brought a bunch of bad things to light about how he treated people around the workplace years ago. But that aside, he did work with Intel Japan's president and CEO now while he was with Sony. They had a relationship. He actually mentioned multiple times in several articles, this is the CEO of Intel Japan, about how he's worked with Android implementing things, and he is connected with JASMY. There's actually video of him talking about JASMY on JASMY's website. There's just so much info out there. Things get drowned out. Max, I know you've covered this. Rest of you guys, I know I've seen what we're talking about. Jesse posted about Suzuki before in the past. So it makes perfect sense that they would be on everything. This is the way I look at it. I don't want JASMY to, like, everybody's like, if they got on PlayStation, it'll explode. How much is PlayStation data worth? That's the way you have to think about it. I could care less if they get PlayStation, if the generated value is only going to be $5, $10 per person from it. When that person has their data being generated from medical, from PlayStation, from their driving, from walking around the house, the refrigerator, from every single aspect of their life, meaning a consortium of companies that all have them registered with their products that are generating data stored in a PDL, then you have a well-rounded type of data asset to refine and make more valuable. So long story short, we just want a lot of different things to help do that.
You're 100% spot on that. I talked about that numerous times. I said in a bunch of videos, live, recorded, and so on. I was like, okay, some of you guys have kids and so on. You play Fortnite. I'm not a fan of that game. Your kids play Fortnite. They get that $1 loot box or whatever the case be. Okay, to a sense, that's data. Is that data going to be worth as much as medical data? No. Even on the recent Investor Place report, they broke it down. Medical data in itself annually is over $200 per user. So a little boy's Fortnite skin, it has value, but it's a night and day difference. So 100% spot on with that, Brian. That's the way I'm looking at it too. Yeah, great positive news in regards to Apple. And, I've been informed numerous times by some of my friends that, I'm a Android peasant because I don't have, an Apple phone. But I also look at it from the perspective of, back to what Brian was saying. Okay, you're going to have more issues with data privacy on the Android compared to something with Apple that really gets it. Okay, but for Apple to even take it to the next level, well, of course, that's huge. Like, nobody's complaining about that, So I know, I know Dick's not here, but he's mentioned numerous times of the reference. Maybe even Jesse's mentioned it. I do say this a lot. Utility in motion. Boom. That is a great example of what Brian just mentioned with Android, because when we talk about supply and demand, that creates that much more demand to give an answer for a underlying problem that exists in the tech.
So couple things real quick. So on the PlayStation thing, couple clarifications, right? So one of them is that what Hara has been proposing is to use the PlayStation GPU for its untapped power for the network to be a decentralized node. That's one part. The second part is kind of what Brian, like what you were saying, and what Max, what you were saying about data, right? Data with PlayStation users. That's entirely different. So that would be like a partnership directly with Sony PlayStation in particular to use the PDL to store user data. That has not been proposed yet. But again, going back to what I was saying earlier about kind of walking in the same path with these same parties, could those paths cross at some point? It's very possible. So maybe right now, the part with the GPUs, you don't need a partnership with PlayStation to do that. All you need is a user who wants to participate in the network. Now, if they go down the route of getting the PlayStation partnership and securing data, yeah, it would make a ton of sense. And to kind of tap into what you were saying, Max, really what you're getting onto there is NFTs, and it's NFTs in gaming in particular. And can you make that skin an NFT? And then where do you store that skin? Where is it securely based, et cetera? And that's kind of where JASMY theoretically could come in somewhere in the future.
Well, I think that one of the biggest issues in crypto anyway is that when we talk about these things, Apple, PlayStation, all this stuff, is that I'll give you a perfect example. Somebody had messaged me 3 days ago when JASMY made the first green daily candle there, and we broke out of the bull pennant, right? And somebody had asked me, well, what was the news? What happened? And that's the biggest misconception, I think, is that with Apple, with PlayStation, with this stuff, everyone's always, it's the catalyst. It's the buy the rumor, sell the news thing that people are seem to be fascinated with and don't realize that sometimes the charts are just the charts, right? And sometimes we were just due for a breakout, and that's just an example. That's why some people go towards that, like the PlayStation's going to be, you know, it's going to be, it might not be in terms of, like Brian had said, in terms of the value of the data from the PlayStations in the big picture, but a lot of people in crypto, they just look at the small picture and they say, well, that's a catalyst that's going to run the price up, 30% over the next 24 hours. So that's what I care about, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that do that. They don't look at the long-term approach. And just to put it blunt, let's just be honest about that. It's difference between the diamond hand people and the paper hand people. I mean, if that offends somebody, sorry, too bad, right? I mean, that's the reality.
Well, case in point, go back in time and look at Cardano and its run. What were the significant events that led up to that run? I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. All I know is it ran on hype and everybody was buying it, including, I think Gene Simmons was even buying Cardano and tweeting about it at some point. So maybe we need him to pick up some JASMY.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. I've got another question here from JASMY 0026 Crypto News. Does the amount of tokens Binance holds concerns you about the manipulation down the road? Anybody? For me, I'll touch on real quick. For me, it's the amount. There's a misconception. The amount of tokens held by Binance is not actually held by Binance, right? From my understanding, that's the accumulation of thousands of people's wallets kind of being held in one kind of wallet. That's Binance. It's not, Binance doesn't own 9 billion tokens themselves, right?
Technically, they do, because if it's not your keys, it's not your wallet. So if it's in the Binance wallet, technically they own it, but it's supposed to be custodied to the users on those exchanges. So you could argue, yes, they do own it, but I think the way people phrase it is they think when they see Binance has this many coins that they purchased those coins. It's just that the way to kind of that I look at this is that yes, Binance could use coins to manipulate. They could. There's nothing stopping them from doing that. Will they? No clue. Have they? We're all pretty certain that they have, regardless of the token we're talking about. So will that be a concern, though, for JASMY? Well, something I've been looking at, and you can only access this with a VPN to a Japanese server, but I've been going to the JVCEA website as well as BitPoint Japan's website, because they have to post yearly audits that tell you how many coins they hold of each token that's on their exchange. When I looked at BitPoint's holdings of JASMY from the prior year in March of 23 when it was reported, which means it was posted later, like it just ended in March of 23. They still haven't posted 2023's fiscal year yet. But 2022's fiscal year posting from last year, they had around 10% of the circulating supply on BitPoint Japan. That makes up, we don't even know what the volume is on that because I can't access it. I have to, you have to actually fill out and sign up for BitPoint Japan and everything else. And I'm not gonna lie on a KYC to find that out. We can just ask people in Japan, honestly. But volume-wise, compared to like Binance, Coinbase, even XT that had major volume a little bit ago, I don't think Binance Japan compares, but they have 10% alone of the circulating supply of Jasmy. Then we're not even talking about Coinbase or the other exchanges in Japan, Binance Japan, Huobi Japan. And then, of course, they're on what, like close to 100 exchanges now. So when we're looking at what Binance can do with their tokens, could they do anything? Yes. But would it be completely obvious? Yes, it would. So there's always going to be price manipulation for the foreseeable future anyway, until there is more regulation and transparency behind international exchanges that don't have a governing body that can summon them to essentially be sued and go to jail. I mean, we really don't know much about a lot of different exchanges. We can't find information on their leadership, who's running it, etc. So, we now can see Binance's board on their website, but we didn't always have that luxury. We just knew CZ for quite some time years ago. I also am going to be signing off in just a minute, so that's what I was going to wrap up with, was that comment right there.
Well, Brian, it's always greatly appreciated, man, that you gave us some of your time, man. I know with the family and stuff like that. I got 6 kids. I get it, brother. So I get it. It's crazy. So I personally appreciate you coming, brother. It means a lot, man.
Hey, thank you very much, and great seeing all of you guys. Lots of us have been talking for many years now, and Rob, it's great to see more content creators coming out and making YouTube videos and really just keeping the community engaged. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Anytime, brother. Anytime.
Great seeing you, Brian. Hope your family's doing well. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Spencer. Later, guys.
Good seeing you, Brian. Take it easy.
So there was something else I wanted to segue into, guys, since he mentioned regulations, and I think it's obvious to everybody where I'm going with this. The whole veto, the veto from Biden. So to lay out just a simple timeline for people, Biden says he's going to veto this bill, right? And understand, this is just the bill that overturns Gensler's illegal rule that he made, right? Trying to disguise it as guidance. This isn't the FIT 121 bill. This is the other one, right? But in saying that, Trump comes out the same day, I think it was, that Biden said he was going to veto this, right? And Trump comes out pro-crypto. And then a few times after that, Trump comes out pro-crypto. Then all of a sudden, Biden starts, changing his tone, right? All of a sudden, with FIT 121, he says he wants to work with Congress to amend the bill to make it work and stuff like that. All of a sudden, right? And then at the 11th hour, as soon as the whole indictment with Trump happens, all of a sudden, the second it happened, I said on the channel, Biden's only pretending that he's pro-crypto because they're losing in the early polls right now when it comes to crypto investors, right? They're seeing it in the numbers. So they need to, is this a hill they want to die on kind of thing, right? And the second that Biden felt that he had the advantage over Trump, started attacking crypto again like that, right? And I said that was what was going to happen, right? Where are you guys' thoughts on this? And I'm not American, so I don't know. Is it feasible to see Trump actually going to jail in the middle of running for president? Or is this just going to be something that slap on the wrist, fines, penalties, probation, whatever it is, house arrest, that kind of thing? I can't see them putting a presidential candidate actually in prison. Is he going to pardon himself? You know what I mean?
Well, in terms of the crypto stuff, it's so interesting because, I think of the United States as a country that always prided itself on innovation, right? And always wanted to be the best or shoot for the moon, like they literally did in the 60s, right? I just don't understand what happened to where, we have this new idea, this new innovation of a store of value, why we want to stifle this technology and basically outsource it to the rest of the world and let them gain an economic advantage through that. I don't think that's inherently political, left or right, until one side politicizes it, right? So I think really the whole approach of, Gensler and the Biden administration has been, very misguided and wrong. And, if you look at companies like Coinbase, they've said throughout years, we don't have the guidance. We don't have that regulatory framework that's needed to actually meet the demands of the SEC. And when, Brian Armstrong's meeting with Congress and talking to Gary Gensler, like, hey, what do I need to do? They basically give him the runaround and don't give us a straightforward answer. So it's really unfortunate what's happening with that. But in terms of with Trump and, being arrested, I'm not sure, because what just happened, this kind of was the least of his worries. They still haven't even addressed the whole January 6th thing. And frankly, if they convicted him on, all counts with this, I think they're going to throw the book at him for that just based off of this. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually do put him in jail. If that's a strategy for the Democrats, I think it's very misguided as well. We've seen him raise, $50 million since that conviction, and I think it's only going to fire up his base more to support him, especially financially. And it's very interesting to see. We've got a few very interesting months coming up in the U.S. through summer and fall before our election, but it would be mind-blowing to me if they actually put him in jail, because people are going to vote for him more. I think that's going to totally go against them. People want to support him more, and would he be a remote president? Then would he just pardon himself and get out if he actually is in jail? Like, we'll just give him a computer and he can talk through the glass or something. Like, I don't know. It's just so ridiculous. And I think if you really want to win, if you're a Democrat, you shouldn't be attacking something that you think is just dog coins and a Ponzi, when all these 80-year-olds in Congress, they can't open a PDF without help, So what the hell do they know about crypto? It's all performative politics, and I think it's really a strategy that will backfire in the long run.
I agree. I think that they're essentially proverbially poking the beehive a little bit here, right? When it comes to the Trump voters, you're only going to embolden them further by what you're doing, right? The best thing that you can do, in my opinion, is try to make it as quiet as possible, not be so public about it and so loud, right? You're pissing people off. But in terms of the U.S. and what they're doing, for me, I kind of view it as like the wolf on the top of the hill whose belly's full, which is the United States, who has been at the top, a superpower in the world for, generations, right? Are not as hungry as these other countries. And I think that the leadership in the West, not just in the US, but in Canada as well, the leadership has become so fat, so to speak, that they're more concerned with lining their pockets and lining the pockets of their friends and keeping this kind of corrupt fiat system that they have in place running the way that it's running, that they don't even realize that there's hungry wolves climbing up the mountain right now in Japan, in China, in Dubai, in all these other countries, and they're coming for you, man, right? And you don't even realize it.
Yeah, I'll just close with this before Jesse and Max give their thoughts. Why are people attracted to crypto? Because they want a better store of value for their money. What's happened to the British pound, the US dollar, the Japanese yen over the past 10, 20, 30 years? The value is completely obliterated. It's depreciated so much. And what did we see happen in COVID, right? We just know that the government can print infinite money, right? They'll just print money out of thin air. Talk about shit coins. The US dollar is the ultimate shit coin. The value is going to just continue to decrease and decrease over time. And what happened? Boom, here's our inflation. Here's the cost of living, everything going up. People don't want to be stuck in something like that they know is going to continually go down. When we look at coins with a fixed supply, right, that should only help something like that. It's just simple economics. And I think people really don't want to get stuck in a system where their value just continually goes down and down and down.
So I kind of think this whole thing kind of highlights like a tone deaf aspect of the Democratic Party, right? So the Democratic Party historically was kind of like, for the middle class, so to speak, right? And the irony in their kind of anti-crypto stance is they're sort of opposite of that. And it's almost like nobody in the Democratic Party has ever watched a Coinbase commercial, right? And I think about the Coinbase commercial where it's the kid with their friends and they're like, hey, what'd my parents do? Well, they went out, they got a job, you know, then they got a house and they started a family and everything worked out great. Now here they are, and that house has gone up in value and everything's magical. And it's like, well, our generation is screwed. Here's how we've got it. You know, it's like we can't afford the house. So it's like me and my 8 friends are now living here, you know, in a 3-bedroom house together, and we're trying to make ends meet. Everything's rented. The cost of everything has gone up. And you're telling me that we should be investing in the stock market? No one wants to invest in the stock market anymore. You know, case in point, you know, a lot of companies in corporate America offer matches on their 401k, anywhere from, let's say, 4% to 8%, whatever. You'd be insane matching your 401k right now because there's so much potential for better returns in crypto if you're buying the right coins. And that's where I think the Democratic Party is just completely missing it. And the irony here is that I think it was the FIT 21, 121, whatever it was, that a third of the Democratic Party broke from that. Like the ones that were like, this is a losing position, Elizabeth Warren, we're going over here. They actually broke away and they voted for it. And I like to get on Reddit here and there. And there was a really funny video that somebody posted recently. It was like a spoof on the whole boomer thing, right? And it's this guy, he's kind of like talking to his older version, and it's like him talking to his dad. And, you know, his dad's telling him how, you know, we're gonna, you know, we created all this wealth here, and, you know, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and, you know, you're gonna take the reins one day. And he's like, yeah, and he's like, and so eventually, you know, that'll happen. And he's like, you're still here. And he's like, so, you know, one day, and he's like, you're not leaving. And by the end of it, you know, the guy tells him that he's lazy. You know, you're lazy. I'm never giving you anything, you know, and it's like, there's kind of the crux of this entire issue. And I think a lot of this, I think about this in the political realm. It's not just the Democratic Party, it's both sides. You know, look at how many octogenarians there are in politics. These people should have been forced out of office at the latest at 65. There's quite a few that are over 80, over 90. That is crazy. They need to get out of the way, and they need to start developing the younger generation. And if they actually did that, if they stopped taking so much for themselves, then maybe, you know, some of these newer policies would come about, you know, and we wouldn't completely miss the mark on crypto and the possibility it has to change the world, to build wealth. You know, it's this completely new system that we're kind of missing out on. And, you know, the irony, I think, in the Trump-Biden thing is, like, if you go on X is pro-Trump. If you go on Reddit is pro-Biden. And really, the funny thing is when you look at both of them, neither one of them has ever been pro-crypto. Either one of them, okay? So Trump has numerous statements where he was completely against it, right? And if you think about it, this is a guy that supposedly has all this wealth. Do you really think he's been converting all that into Bitcoin all these years? No, he's never converted shit, okay? The only reason he's saying this now is to stay out of jail eventually. Now, you brought up the point of, you know, he was guilty on all 34 counts in his first criminal trial of 4 criminal trials. And this was supposedly the weakest one. So he's got 3 more coming down the pipe where he's probably going to be guilty in all those as well, on top of everything else. And if you've ever heard him talk, it's a pretty good odds that he is guilty on everything. And so where does that ultimately leave us? It leaves us with a dumpster fire of an election that nobody wants. Nobody wants either one of these candidates. Both of them should have got out of the way a long time ago. I don't know where you go with it, honestly. It's kind of like, again, the lesser of the two evils, sadly.
To be fair, up here in the north, our fearless leader has now been found guilty in court of breaking the law 4 times in the last 3 years. And he's still running our country.
Hey, great. Okay, so there is precedent. All right. Over to you, Max.
You know, I'm not going to elaborate too much. I mean, you know, like I would always say, everybody should go out and vote. It's always been a case of the lesser of the two evils because we have just that, two parties. As much as people want to see the third party, the closest we ever got to that, technically speaking, I'm a former history teacher, probably Teddy Roosevelt. I'm going to be honest about it. In recent time, probably Ross Perot. Ross Perot dropping out, because his daughter. I want to attend my daughter's wedding or whatever it was. It's just like, okay, and then boom, that did it for him. If that's the closest we're going to get, I don't ever see us ever having a real true third party. And I know it's a lot of people are going to vote for, RFK Jr. And hey, do what you got to do. I would never be the guy to say, hey, this is, who we should vote for. But I think we can all come to the conclusion that, a lot of these guys are opportunists. I won't tell you guys who I'm voting for. It's not anybody's business at the end of the day. Do your own research, right? As the saying goes. But my thing is, yes, a lot of these guys are opportunists. And, at the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do. How does it affect us as far as these assets that we hold and so on? Well, back to, I think, Spencer was talking about this where, or Jesse, or both of you guys, it's you literally see it's not a case of across the board, Democrats all going to align themselves with Elizabeth Warren and her view on things. No, even they could realize, no, there's use case here. My policy, all right, is recognizing assets that are going to be also involved with the legacy systems, and then also have that adoption. Because let's face it, guys, until we get to the point where, we talk about mass adoption, it's leaving that old system, but not necessarily saying we can't work with them. This is why I obviously cover not just JASMY, I'll talk about Stellar, I'll talk about some of these other ones, Quant and whatnot, because I do recognize that you can't just say, turn that off as much as we want to say that. And that, of course, will drive demand. Back to what Jesse was talking about, where, your 401k or whatever, even I myself, I had to go bold back in 2021. And going bold was to hell with my savings account, because it was actually costing me more money to just leave it where it was compared to those gains that I experienced in crypto. And that was part of my own journey and so on. So 2021, my tail was turning 10K to 120K. I'm not rich off of that. Just recently, thanks to JASMY, ironically, I'm back into the six figures with my portfolio. Am I going to be paper handing that back to, I think it was Jesse or whoever it was that pointed out, or maybe it was, maybe it was Brian pointing out hey, I just made all this in JASMY. Aren't you going to go sell your JASMY? No. For me, I like to be diversified. I know I put out a lot of content for JASMY and so on, but I do like the idea that I see some ones that could potentially do huge things by the end of this year where I can pull those profits off of those, because for me personally, JASMY is one of those ones that I probably am not going to touch long term. Now, just because, I just want to state this, I'll never be that guy who, is from the Texas area. You guys know who he is. I don't want to bash him. I never sold a single token. What the hell are you doing, right? He told everybody and I suggest you don't do that with your SHIB. Give me a break. I do that with my SHIB. I 11x, right? I turned 8K to 88K, and I was so glad I didn't listen to that narrative. All I'm saying for anybody tuned in, just because you hear me or anybody else here, right? We would never give you financial advice. You got to do what's best for you and your family. If you feel as though you want to take the profits, you got to do what you got to do. I'm just looking at it from perspective of yes, with JASMY, I really see where it's going. The writing's on the wall. It's just a matter of time before this is a top 10. Yeah, you heard me right on that. I'm in alignment with what Brian mentioned in regards to these crazy market cap numbers. I mean, those numbers he mentioned would basically be about double ETH's market cap. And that, I know itself, does sound like an Elizabeth Warren bat crazy moment, right? But it's okay, look at the other ones that are out there and the utility that they have. This IoT in itself tied to so many sectors. JASMY branching over out to, the financial sectors of things, banks and so on. There's just too much, as the saying goes, utility being put into motion. And what also excites me, and hopefully we could talk about this here soon, unless everybody's going to leave, that's okay too. And I wanted to bring this up, and that is of course, the whole thing with Janction. All right. So, what is this right here? Yeah, we shared this at the beginning, but I want to elaborate a little bit more about this. So Icy had this about revealing the plan to utilize JASMY for payment on Janction by December 2024. I talked about this, I think, at the beginning of the outline tonight. And the way I look at it is, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts about it, because we did talk a little bit about regulation. Obviously, we talked about what's volatile and so on. But, I think there were so many people, and I'm friends with some of these guys, and nothing against them, it's a difference of opinion. Other content creators and so on, they're like, yeah, this thing's going to a V2. I'm out, Okay. Then we saw that's not the case. The case is Janction is the answer for the problem with ERC20. Period. Across the board, especially with AI and DPIN. So, I don't know. I'd just like to get some of you guys' thoughts in regards to some of this. And then after that, I have this other thing. If we still have time, if we don't, that's cool too. It could be done on another day in regards to NEC. Another post from Lil Bin Man. Of course, he kills it with the research. But I guess I'll just leave this up here for a bit.
All right. So I'll take the first swing at this. So this is a layer 2 solution that scales up Ethereum outside of Ethereum. That's how layer 2 works. You could look at it maybe two different ways, right? So I recently heard Gavin Wood of Polkadot talking about, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, whatever, is kind of, I think for the cryptographers at the truest sense, like him, like a doctorate level person, it's a workaround, but maybe not as true to the goals that we're trying to accomplish, put it that way, right? So in a perfect system, should you need a layer 2? Well, no. But to elaborate on that, Bitcoin has the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Okay, so this is the way that they use Bitcoin in El Salvador for buying goods and services. It's a layer 2 scale up solution that theoretically can do 1 million transactions per second. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is arguably the most perfect cryptocurrency ever to come about, with obviously a huge major flaw that it can only process, I think, 7 transactions per second. Okay, that's kind of where it's capped. So you have to have a layer 2 solution to scale it up. Now with JASMY, remember that we do not have the blockchain catalyst person. We're coming about this from a completely different angle. Does a layer 2 solution ultimately make sense? And that's where trial and error has led them to, yes, we have to go with a layer 2, because the original option was to work with centrality. In a way, I would say that was probably another layer 2, but not to this level that Janction will be. And so Janction is basically like the JASMY chain. And it is a scale-up solution. So I like to think of a layer 2 like this. It's kind of like if we have a highway, or let's say a road. We have a 1-lane road, and it's log jammed and nobody can get through. And then we open a super highway with 25 lanes going around that log jam. That's what it is. And so it's kind of like there's more than one way to skin a cat idea, that there's multiple ways to get to the same result. And so really it just kind of comes down to, are you sort of like a fundamentalist that you think we shouldn't need a layer 2, it should just be inherent that everything works great? Well, that's nice in a perfect world, but that's not always true. So this is a solution that will work. What it does in particular, and where JASMY ran into problems, was with Transcosmos specifically, that they had too many transactions and it would be too expensive, so it didn't work, which is why they had to go the layer 2 route. So it is a necessary thing that has to happen with this, and the only way this ecosystem comes to life is with a layer 2, and then you would lock up JASMY and then use that equivalent within that ecosystem. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I remember going back to what Max was saying there when they first had announced Junction. They were calling it JASMY Chain at the time, right? Man, it was a battle. It was a battle fighting some of the narratives that were being made up by other content creators. Like there was a narrative out there at the time, and it was like Jasmy was migrating identically to how Gala did, and you know the whole reason Gala did their whole migration in the first place was because of the founders, right? Real brief. I don't know if you guys know, but real brief. One founder apparently stole some Gala. The other founder did a V2 so that his Gala
Right.
wouldn't be worth anything anymore on the V1, right? So essentially, that's what that was. So then this other content creator, again, I'm not gonna take shots at him or anything, but then he created an entire story about how a layer 2 on Jasmy was not even necessary, and then it didn't do anything, and that the team was only doing this so that they could make a migration coin and rip everybody off and stuff like that. And he was getting out of Jasmy and all this stuff. It was, and I looked everywhere and I couldn't find anything to back up any of these accusations that were being thrown about, right? And it just goes back to a complete lack of people's willingness to do research. They just put it out there in the universe, I guess. And so I know exactly what you're talking about, Max. It was a battle back then.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's nothing against that guy. I mean, I'm still, friends with the guy and so on. He kind of tunes in once, here and there. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the way I look at it is like, let's all be adults, difference of opinion, agree to disagree. Hey, it is what it is, right? But yeah, I mean, I did see quite a few people at that time get out of Jasmy because of that. The way I look at it is, again, back to the research thing, it was a perfect case of, the research that him and the other guy was presenting was, here's what happened with other projects. That's what they were comparing it to. And it was actually a perfect case of, you can't really compare this to other projects because at the end of the day, this is a completely different project. But again, I get where they're coming from. Okay, well, this is what we're basing it off of. Do we agree with that? Well, for me and a lot of other people that still here with Jasmine, the answer is no. The other thing I want to point out in regards to this real quick, it's not on your screen, it's just kind of like my own notes. I want people to understand this whole thing with Junction because it does get brought up a lot. So for me, it's traditional AI training, and it's basically like large amounts of data. As you guys may or may not know, like I'm really into Filecoin, really into BTT. Man, apples and oranges when it comes to those particular two. Obviously I'm the Jasmy. I'm all about data. I'm into IOTA, right? But it's the large amounts of data, and it does raise privacy, of course, concerns. I want everybody to understand that while this collaboration in itself, 10, Junction, Jasmy, right, focuses on decentralized AI, you have to keep in mind that training data in itself is distributed across, of course, the network. Well, at the end of the day, how is this going to benefit everybody? Like, can I put in layman's terms? Well, from what I gathered, it's the focus on data security. And I want people to understand that we were talking about Apple earlier, okay? And Junction's DPIN project in itself, which is DPIN times AI that they boast, literally on the front page of their X account, definitely suggests a focus on secure and private data handling. And you guys got to keep in mind, it's that training data, it's the protection of user privacy in AI models. But Jasmy's relation to Junction brings in the whole thing of, again, back to the whole topic of expertise. I cover Tadashi Morita quite a bit because I feel like he's like the unsung hero of Jasmy from a tech side. Junction's leadership experience from Sony and incubation by Jasmy in itself definitely does bring expertise, potential resources, of course, to the table. Now, this whole thing with 10, well, I think it benefits all three. And I always give examples in my videos. I want to just explain this to all the newcomers. 10 in itself definitely gains access to Junction's expertise in secure DPIN. And you better believe they're going to use Jasmy's resources propelling their decentralized AI solution. So that's a win for them. But what about Junction? Well, Junction itself does, in fact, integrate TEN's technology to enhance their DePIN project and, of course, potentially expand the reach. Well, how far does that reach? I think it's going to be much more farther than just Japan. That's just my own opinion. But if you look more into it, that makes sense. So when we talk about like utility in motion or reaching the the millions for PDL users that Brian was talking about earlier, these are some of the examples to get that done. All right, that third example, JASMY in itself. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for, right? The benefits from the success of Junction in itself is going to validate their incubation strategy for what? Is to foster their goals, to further solidify that, and of course, secure everything in this AI space. Moving forward, before I close this out, because I want to kick it up back to you guys and hear your thoughts in regards to this. Junction's DePIN itself, like we know, leverages JASMY's expertise, but also TEN is very beneficial to them. At the end of the day, you can see how they all work together. But my key takeaway from what I read, TEN is a big deal. Like most people don't know about TEN, but it is the key towards even more mass adoption. What happens when we get other examples, for instance, in regards to other big industry players getting on board? I mean, if you think about it, isn't that what an ecosystem's all about? I think it is. Your guys' thoughts?
Well, first of all, like you were just saying, yeah, they literally just did expand out into Korea, right, with their CDE partnership. And then I think it was Hara retweeted a tweet by Junction about how they have further plans to plant deeper roots into Korea and make more create more partnerships and collaborations that are going to be on the books, down the road. So it's definitely, I definitely agree with you that expanding out of there. But I wanted to kind of bring it back real quick to what you were saying about market cap way back. And that argument for me is a straw man argument, because people say, well, this project can't get to that price because of market cap. And I had a conversation with, I don't know if you guys know him, it's another content creator, AJ Writes Crypto. And he does a lot of price predictions. And
oh no, I think Rob
lower.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here I am. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so I did that with AJ Writes Crypto. I talked to him because I watched a lot of his price prediction videos on alts, and none of them going into this bull run were going to be any higher than their last all-time high. In fact, they were going to be significantly lower, right? And the whole market cap thing. So I asked him, I said, like, so no altcoins are going into price discovery in this bull run? Like, that would be the first time ever that happened, right? And he's like, well, dilution, right? And I get dilution, yes, right? And it happens through most altcoins through a bear market. However, what market cap for the total asset class are you really basing all of this off of, right? Because when people say to me, we'll use JASMY as an example. Well, JASMY can't get to $1. Market cap would have to be 50 billion based on the current supply, whatever, right? Okay, well, again, I have to ask the question: if $50 billion market cap is too high for you, what market cap are you looking at for the whole asset class? And if you think any project really, can't reach a couple $100 billion or whatever it is in terms of market cap, I think you're really telling me, when I read between the lines, that you don't really have much conviction in this asset class as a total, because this is very early. $3 trillion is tiny for an entire asset class's market cap, right? So what are we really talking about here? Do you not think we can get to tens of trillions or whatever the case might be? I guess I don't know if he lost his internet or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? You're telling me you don't really believe in like what are you talking about? We're looking at, for me, I think we're probably looking at closer to 15 trillion for this bull run is possible with these ETFs, right? In terms of market cap for the asset class. So why is any number, besides saying something completely, crazy, like JASMY is going to have a $5 trillion market cap, but why is 50 billion unrealistic? Why is 800 billion unrealistic in the big picture? Why is that? What market cap do you think this asset class is really going to?
Do you want to chime in, Jesse? I have an answer to that, but I didn't know if Jesse was going to go.
Go ahead. You can talk.
The way I look at it is, again, Brian was covering this a while back. I think even Dip at the 8-year anniversary. And it's like, even as we speak, you know, when we talk about certain cryptocurrencies or when we were first introduced into crypto, it's like, you know, you hear the term currency in cryptocurrency, obviously. So the first thing that's going through your head is not to take a deep dive with Jesse or Max or whoever, right? You know, you're new to all this, and you're thinking, how can I use this to pay for like bills, groceries, so on and so forth? You know, like again, I cover like things like Stellar and so on, and that was something that was really interesting to me. Was like if I had to pick one that would get that job done, there's that. Now, obviously, we're talking about JASMY. IoT in itself. I mean, I think we did this on the first roundtable, Rob, where you know you mentioned something like you know your toaster or your washing machine or whatever. You know, those are things tied to IoT. Staring way down this way, you can see it in the distance. You know, it's like my laundry room, Samsung washing machine. But all that on this new modern washing machine is basically IoT. And so it's like, okay, what about the future when we talk about Web3 to have that verifiable on like a public ledger and so on? Well, once that's activated, that would be that utility put into motion. All right, multiply that towards so many other things other than obviously like what Brian was talking about, Sony PlayStation. You know, we talk about these phones here, these Androids, but specifically that. This whole thing, I think, you know, if anybody's just tuning in, I'll pull it up on the screen right now because it needs to be pulled up on the screen. And that is, you know, back to this. Back to what Lil Bedman was mentioned. This is a different screen from earlier, or the same screen, sorry. It's basically that I Trust Identity Verification Service. To me, this is big. This is, you know, Japan's flip of the switch when it officially happens when there's a mandate. In Taro Kono Taro, wherever way you want to pronounce it, right? I can't remember if it's frontwards or backwards, but that's beyond the point. He has mentioned numerous times about, like, you know, will there be, I guess you say, like a mandate. Well, a mandate says, basically speaking, that they're going to have to use this. And even though, indirectly speaking, they're not going to say JASMY, well, who's the one that's going to get the job done? Again, back to the whole concept of supply and demand. I think JASMY will absolutely run. I stand by the research based off of not just myself or what I gather, but everybody from this community and so on. If semiconductor news and what's going on in Japan made JASMY run twice, basically speaking, news on that without any direct mention of JASMY, again, put two and two together. The writing is literally on the wall. And with that said, that would be explosion in market cap. Why? It's IoT. It's all these sectors involved with IoT. If you have to have a mandate to have your data properly stored, where, let's face it, it's not the centralized powers getting involved with it from the perspective of you have no say over any of it. I again will recognize supply and demand with what's going to kick in. I have this other part about NEC from Lil Bidman, which is cool too. Shout out to him. A lot of research we want to share tonight. But anyway, back to one of you guys. I think it was Jesse. I know Spencer's got some, I think, connection issues.
Yeah. So I kind of view the whole market cap thing like this. If you go to Google and you ask it, when did the stock market start? Arguably 1792. That's when the stock market started. 1792. Okay. So the cryptocurrency market arguably started officially in 2009. Okay. That's 15 years ago. So just saying, I know it's not 100% equal comparison, but on the surface, okay, this is like joining the stock market, okay, in the year 1807. And when somebody says this market is already exhausted, where's it going to go from here? How will it ever grow? 200 years later, do you think the stock market increased in value? I'll leave it at that. Back to you guys.
Well, I agree 100%. And I actually use that as an example all the time when people ask me about, you know, will will we lose volatility in crypto, and will it become more like the stock market? And my answer is yes, but it's yes in a different capacity than people think. There's tons of volatility in the stock market. You're just not allowed to participate in it as an unaccredited investor, right? Volatility is there. You can still get in on startups and new companies and stuff like that. You just already need to be a millionaire, right? In crypto, we still have that opportunity. This bull run is a perfect example. We see tons of fantastic companies who've come to the forefront just in this cycle. SEI Network, Pith, KASPA, just to name a few, right? Fantastic projects that are going to continue on. Gora is another one, another Oracle over on Algorand, for example, right? Great projects that are going to continue. And the same thing's going to happen in the next cycle. More new companies are going to start up, more volatility. So in a way, yes. And I stream all the congressional hearings and stuff like that are happening in relation to crypto. And I caught on the FIT 121 bill that the Democrats tried to slide in this little amendment, right? And if you weren't paying attention, you would have missed it. But it was this little amendment that would have prevented people without X amount of money being allowed to invest in crypto, right? They were trying to implement.
Oh, man. Think about what you just said. Because crypto, technically speaking, is all about taking away the centralized powers and so on, decentralization, and that grab literally over, and pulling that out. That is the control. We want to get away from that. So that is so counterproductive. But again, back to the whole thing of so many projects having that centralized reach, and I think that's where we're at as far as the U.S. perspective goes. But anyway, back to you. I didn't want to cut you off. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like I said, I was streaming it, and I was just kind of in the chat, and people were like, "Well, what does that mean?" And I was listening, and McHenry just kind of shot it right down. Obviously, he's like, "Whoa, wait a second here." It got the amendment got voted on, and it obviously got shot down. But for me, it was the principle that they tried to slide that in there to prevent you without X amount of money being able to invest into crypto because you're not mature enough as an investor, right? Now, listen, there is some water in that argument, in my opinion, and we prove it every day over on YouTube and on Crypto X, right? There is a very large contingent of crypto investors who definitely are not mature enough mentally to be investing in crypto, right? 100%. And the divisiveness is what I'm talking about. You don't see people in the stock market who are buying Amazon go on X and start saying, "Oh, if you buy Microsoft or Apple, you're an idiot." You know what I mean? That's a shit stock, and you know what I mean. You don't see that, right? That's an immature mentality when it comes to professional investing. So there is some water in that argument. However, we know that that's not the real reason that you need to be an accredited investor. Like, was it last year that the SEC was trying to increase the amount of money you needed to have in investments from 1 million to 10 million to become an accredited investor? Because so many people in crypto, it was becoming easier and easier to attain $1 million because of crypto, right? So like, well, we got to continue to exclude these people here and raise it to 10 million, right? So it's easy for the people who are worth $100 million to say something like that, right? But yeah, it just goes back to like Jesse was saying about the stock market, and just it is very similar, but it's like you said, it's very early. And people that think that, well, where can it go from here? Buckle up, because you're going to find out, right?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Yeah, my computer, I think, got sucked into the blockchain or something. I had to just go to my phone. But I am going to have to take off soon, so I'll just kind of do some closing remarks. I think that's a great way to put it, Jesse, that I feel like our reality of time now is almost warped with having a computer in our pocket. Like, everything moves so quick. So it's a great analogy.
You did hear that last part where he says it's a great analogy.
Yeah, I lost him after that. SEC shutting them down.
You never know.
Yeah, but I agree. But I don't think that, like I was saying before, I don't think that the stock market and the crypto market are that different. Crypto is just much younger, much younger, and they will at some point they will absorb the digital asset space into the TradFi in some capacity or another. In my opinion, they will find a way to get more control over it. But from what I tell people is, from my opinion, is if you're in crypto right now, you still have a good 1 or 2 more bull runs to go, 1 or 2 more cycles before that really is kind of like taken away from us, right? So you should be able to, get your life-changing wealth in that time frame. If you're not, you should be able to do that just in Bitcoin alone. Never mind dabbling in altcoins, right? I think everyone should hold some Bitcoin, by the way. But yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I guess I won't 100% agree with all that. I just look at like a lot of altcoins are a lot better as far as like X's go, right? Like, am I really going to 20x BTC at this point? Maybe you guys think you will. I don't agree with that. I think maybe like a 2 or 3x from here, but if I was going to get into BTC, it would have been during the time of FTX when we saw, BTC at like in the 15K range, right? Like 15,700 in that area. That would have been the time. But
I agree with what you're saying. But so for me, what I like to do in the bottom of a bear market, or as close to a bottom of a bear market as I can get, I will take 50% of my gains from this bull run and I'll roll that into Bitcoin, 50% of it, right? I will 3x that in Bitcoin, right? But it's a larger amount of money, so a 3x is decent. It's 25% also that I take, and I spend the bottom of the bear the next 2 years, year and a half, DCAing into solid altcoin projects, right? So I do agree with you because I want to get those X's still, right? For sure. But I hate using the word safe in crypto in the same sentence. But for me, putting 50% over into Bitcoin and maybe 3xing that through the course of the next bull run, let's say it's $750,000 or something like that, and I can 3x that on top of, all of my altcoin X's, then that's a nice little way of doing it, and it's a little bit safer, especially now we're seeing ETFs with Bitcoin and stuff like that. It is more of a safe, for lack of a better word.
Well, safe and trust. That's the bottom line. I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm saying it. I think that's why another reason why, if you look at the utility of BTC, this is my opinion. If you're going to disagree, that's okay. I look at, back to the whole thing on meme coin. I look at BTC as literally being the most expensive meme coin out there because it's just it's the Pony Express of crypto. I get where you're coming from, Jesse, in regards to like Lightning Network. I'm not a big fan of Lightning Network. I think it's crap personally. From the bigger perspective, but I do realize at the end of the day, it's security and it's trust. So as a result, what do we see? We see, like these ETFs, and we see big institutions where it's Vanguard or it's, State Street or heck, even BlackRock, right? On board for a lot of that. So yeah, there's the internet of trust. What about getting a combination of the internet of trust and the internet of value? So for me, it's, yeah, I do lean more towards the alts, but I totally get it. You say, you guys are definitely not the only ones that are doing that. And, is this a safe play? It probably is, I don't know if it's going to be by the next cycle. My thing is I always bet on innovation. I don't really see the innovation from BTC. That's just my own personal opinion.
I think that there's another argument that I've been kind of making, not an argument, but another position I've kind of been putting my stake in the ground on, and that we're seeing a lot of people saying, well, Solana's the next, what's the next, altcoin ETF, right? It's Solana or it's Avalanche or it's XRP, right? Now, you have to remember there's 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs, if I'm not mistaken, and there's 8 Ethereum spot ETFs, right?
Give or take. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to quote you on that, but yeah, I think you're pretty close.
Yeah. So in saying that, now that we have Ethereum, an altcoin, essentially, being approved for an ETF, I think that we're going to see things radically change at this point. We're seeing a minimum of 8 applicants, let's say, right? And everyone's like, well, Solana's going to be next. I think that you need to expand your mind there. I think that someone like Cathie Wood, for example, she's not stupid. If BlackRock applies for a spot Solana ETF, do you really think she's going to follow suit and file for one, or do you think she's going to try to get first movers advantage on an AVAX or an XRP spot ETF instead? You've got 8 other applicants. What's to say they're all just going to continue to file for the same altcoin ETF at the same time? Why would they not try to expand off into different directions to get first? Because everyone knows BlackRock, if you're filing for the same ETF as BlackRock, they're going to get the bulk of that money. It just is what it is, right? So why would you not go in a different direction? Why would you not go in 5? There could be 5 different applications at the same time by 8 different companies, right? We don't have to go one coin at a time anymore. Now that the Ethereum dam has been broken, like Pomp had said it best. He said Ethereum is the last dam that needed to be broken with the ETFs, and I agree with that. I think we could see multiple again. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that? You know, these people aren't stupid. Why would you not go in a different direction and try to get first movers advantage on an XRP ETF as opposed to competing directly with BlackRock?
I think it comes down to how they're governed. So not every crypto is created equal, and not every crypto is governed the same way. So Ethereum, you know, says, well, it's decentralized, you know, if it's run by a DAO or whatever. That kind of lends towards being approved for an ETF. Like, you know, I posted last time we were chatting, I posted when JASMY ETF, right? Well, I don't really think the JASMY one would happen because it's not governed by a decentralized autonomous organization. That's not true. So you would have to have that governance aspect, hopefully with no ICO. And then theoretically, anything that falls into that bucket could probably be an ETF. Now, the way I view the ETFs is kind of like, I think that they open the door for Wall Street to make money on crypto. That's the way I see it, right? So Wall Street is looking to make any dollar they can anywhere on the market. And this is just another way of doing it by selling a derivative in the stock market that ties back to crypto. Now, kind of going back a little bit to some of your guys' comments, I don't think that the crypto market in general understands the implications of the Bitcoin ETF. I really don't. The way I view this right now, so I mean, I think there's already 8. What is it? There's a significant amount of Bitcoin that's in the ETF between the 11 Bitcoin ETFs already. They've already soaked up a lot of supply. They will continue to do that. Eventually, there's not going to be any more, or what there is going to be in smaller and smaller and smaller fractions. And the implications of that is whether you believe in the technology, like I said, throughput 7 per TPS. Yeah, that's crap when you compare it to these other things, right? So I totally get that. But Bitcoin influences everything. So all these altcoins that you're investing in, Bitcoin is the moon that's influencing the tides. And the Bitcoin ETF is like the great flood that's raising all boats. So that's going to have a significant effect on, I think, the crypto market in general. The Bitcoin ETF does. And now you take it one step further and you say, well, now we're doing an Ethereum ETF. Again, we're bringing in more money. We're taking more coins out of supply. We're raising all boats even further. How far we go with this ETF thing, like I said, it probably just depends on each cryptocurrency individually. And then whether, Cathie Wood is just trying to stay even with BlackRock, or maybe she goes for something different. I don't know. Can the SEC even approve all of these, let's say, right? I mean, look at how long it takes them to approve anything. So just because you're applying for something,
that's by design, though.
Probably. Yeah, it probably is. You're right. But I mean, case in point is just because they're applying for something different doesn't really mean they're going to get first mover, because Gary may just put that on the shelf for another 10 years and, eventually get to it whenever he feels like it. Right. Because he hasn't been held accountable yet, and he's just wasting money on a daily basis. So, and he's pretending like as if the SEC oversees this, this new investment class, when they don't. And I think everybody knows that they don't, right? So anyways, the ETF, the way I see it, combined with the mining rewards, releasing Bitcoin, right? So Saylor has publicly posted that by 2034, 99% of all supply will be done. Within another roughly 100 years or so, everything else will be done. Okay, fine. That doesn't really matter. But the point is 10 years, a decade. So now till then, 99% of the supply, combined with the ETFs pulling Bitcoin out constantly, this is going to change absolutely everything. And so, Rob and I have talked about this a little bit. I don't think I've talked to you about it, Max, that I believe that right now, this 10-year window is going to be looked back in time at the second gold rush of Bitcoin. And nobody's even going to realize it was here until after it's done. And then everybody's going to be kicking themselves for not at least getting some of it during this window. Now, ultimately, like you said, I mean, do I have a better chance of making a massive return on JASMY than I do on Bitcoin? Sure, of course I do. But once that 10 years is up, I think that script might flip a little bit, and it might go back towards Bitcoin.
I hear you. I just I don't want to derail this topic too much. I'm not a fan of BTC. I'm into the other one. I'm sure you know what the other one is. I'm one of those guys. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, you're not, to be fair, you're not wrong, Max. I mean, at the end of the day, if you really were to just unbiasedly look at Bitcoin, it is just a meme coin. However, I put my pennies where big money puts their dollars. And if they're going to put spot Bitcoin ETFs on the market and they're going to pump Bitcoin, I'm coming for the ride.
I'm with you 100% on that. Don't get me wrong. I'm on it with you 100% on that. And I do get the argument from Michael Saylor. And, my thing is, I'll never be the type of guy that it's like, even with news, like I may not like the other, what stations are like. I'll listen to the other side, what they present. I'll listen to this side. I've always been the middle of the road type of guy. It is what it is. Always been a registered independent. People want to know anyway. But I would never tell, the person who to vote for. My thing is this: Michael Saylor has pointed out numerous times that, it's like you have to look at BTC as though it's like it's real estate, it's property, as you would say. Would you go tear off a piece of this building in Manhattan to go buy a cup of coffee? No, you wouldn't. Okay, great point. So BTC is digital property, like he's pointed out. Great. Does that follow a peer-to-peer cash system from the original white paper? That's the issue I have. And for me, the answer is no. That is not scalability. So as a result, in my opinion, I'm going to bid on original Bitcoin. You guys know which one that is. I understand it. People will call the guy fake Toshi. I focus more on the tech. That's my position. But I don't want to derail this topic and make it about that particular Bitcoin, because we are talking about JASMY. So anyway.
I personally have no issues with the alternative. I don't hold any, but I don't have issues with it either.
It's tremendous. It's tremendous. 9 million TPS. Nothing out there touches that with Terranode. Nothing touches that. That's my thing. People could call CSW fake Toshi all they want. I have taken numerous deep dives into it. I think it's something solid. I'm betting on that horse because the way I look at it is it's like getting into BTC basically back in 2013 roughly. Mm-hmm. And to me, I see more potential with that. Do I get where you're coming from and other people when it comes to like I'm going to take some of my profits and put into BTC? Absolutely. And I'm rooting for everybody's success. I would never be that type of guy. And I hate this. I think it's silly. I think it's childish. when we root against other people's coins or tokens and we make this tribalistic and stuff like that. Like, it is so bad nowadays. Maybe we can agree on this, that I kind of look at like as sports teams when it comes to our coins.
Yeah.
Like, it's like Yankee fans versus like Boston Red Sox fans or something like that. Go back to Jizzy, you bum. Like, come on, give me a break. Go back to Shiba, you bum. It's like, what? I'm rooting for everybody's success, period. Why wouldn't I? You know what I mean? Like, is it really going to hurt me if I see somebody that's invested into a token or a coin that I'm not invested? Into a sense, that's like childish, like jealousy. Anyway.
I think that for me, a fantastic analogy for sports, because I was just kind of thinking to myself, I think actually my sport fandom enables me to have that open-mindedness and not hate other projects. And that is that, so you know me, I'm a Leafs guy since I'm originally from Toronto, right? So, and Jesse, I see you laughing. So anyway, but I can say as a fan, Tampa.
Lightning, right on. That's why you're a fan of the Lightning Network, right? No, I'm kidding. That's a bad pun. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I can say, like a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, as a Leafs fan, I could always say, Carey Price is one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, right? I didn't because it just is what it is. I'm not going to sit there and go, he sucks because he plays for a team that I don't like. And I equate that over to crypto, and it's like, I might not like your project. I get asked on live streams to look at probably 25 projects in a live stream, and I look at them all. And if I don't like it, I just say, well, it doesn't look like something that I would buy, but I mean, it seems okay. If you're doing good on it, good for you. I can't stand seeing influencers create videos or live streams and just go on these rants, fudding projects that people have put their hard-earned money into. For me, it's a little irresponsible to use your platform for that.
You said it. Right? It's irresponsible. I would agree with you.
Yeah, because it's what you're doing, and it may be an oversimplification, but for me, if I was to do that, I would feel like I'm out there actively trying to cost people money because they're putting money into this stuff, and here I am trying to convince other people not to invest in the same project and contribute to crashing that project. Right? That's what I'm actively trying to do. So I don't know, irresponsible.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, people are going to do their thing and so on. And, let's face it. I mean, I'm friends with other content creators that do that, but I don't go on their platform and don't go publicly and try to run down what they're doing. They're going to do what they're going to do. For me, that's just not my style.
I mean, listen, I get it. A lot of times they don't feel like they're just doing it because it's clicks, and I get it. All three of us, we make content and we need clicks, right? But there are lines for me, like I'm not going to put a thumbnail that says, JASMY to, $105 next week or something like that, and I'm not going to FUD other projects because when you FUD something, you get just as many. You probably get more clicks because bad news travels quicker than good news.
You're right about that. I will state that. Yeah, it does. It travels. It travels on the Lightning Network a lot more faster than other ones, anyway.
Wouldn't that make it slower?
Hey, hold on a second. I got to ask this, Max. So sure. I know you wear.
That's
I
no bash against you, buddy.
Hat, right? Padres.
This
is that what that is?
How dare you? This is the Portland Diamond Project, and I'm one of probably the few guys in all of the internet crypto space with this hat. Go Portland Diamond Project to bring Major League Baseball to Portland, Oregon, okay? I am actually, because my real name is not Max, that's just a nickname, but a lot of my friends in real life have called me Max since the year 2000, just a little background, because of the movie Gladiator, right? Maximus, the savior of Rome. Maximus, the savior of Jasmy. No, I'm kidding. I'm not the savior of Jasmy. Anyway, but anyway, ever since I was a little kid, because, in Portland, Oregon, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. In Portland, Oregon, I always dreamed of seeing Major League Baseball. Like, baseball was my first love, all right? And I live in a town where the only ticket in town is the Portland Trailblazers basketball, and I'm a big fan of them, right? So anyway, I was named after a AAA baseball player, and his last name became my first name. All right, so this is the Portland Diamond Project to bring Major League Baseball to Portland. Years ago, there was investors like, what's his name, Wilson from, football, his wife Sierra, there's other people. So Major League Baseball will happen in Portland probably within 5 to 10 years, roughly. So that's what that is. It's not Padres. Back to you. I'm so sorry.
I got to ask the question, guys. Who's winning the cup?
So we're down to what? The Rangers and the Panthers? Is that where it's at?
It's in the East right now. It's Florida versus the Rangers. I think Florida's up 3-2 in the series, and Edmonton is playing Dallas. Edmonton's up 3-2 in the series.
I don't know, man. That could go either way.
I got to lean for I think the East, so I would probably, the Panthers have been kind of up and coming for quite a long time, so I would think they would probably be the front runner on this, but I don't know. The Rangers have looked pretty good at times also, so I'd probably go with one of them.
Other thing I want to throw out there real quick, you got a super chat from a guy named Filipino Ice Cube. That's my own personal friend from my community. That was another account from Elon Muff. All right, he's a good guy. He's my coworker / friend, and he's one of my best buds. He's been following my community for a couple years. But anyway, so it's this hat because of the Boys in the Hood. So Doughboy, Ice Cube's character, was a Detroit hat. So that's where that nickname comes from. Filipino Ice Cube. They call me Filipino Ice Cube.
I connect those dots now. Yes, nice.
And I am the dot connector. That's another thing they call me anyway. It is what it is.
Yeah, I gotta say I agree. It's probably going to be the East. The Rangers is stacked, but I think it's probably going to be Florida. As much as I'd like to see Edmonton win, being Canadian, I mean, how much of a shame is it going to be if Connor McDavid literally goes through his whole career in Edmonton and doesn't win a Stanley Cup?
But that's the harsh reality, not even counting NHL. I mean, how many great players like NBA basketball, like some like Charles Barkley, right? Like if it would have been any other era, he would have won at least one, maybe two, or Elgin Baylor. Like how many times he goes to the finals, he lost, or heck, there's baseball players. I mean, you name it, right? So
hey, just think about tennis players, right?
Tennis players,
over the last 30 years of tennis, there's like 3 guys that win everything and no one else.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Remember how many times Andre Agassi, I think, like he was about to go the way, and then he kept losing to Sampras, So anyway.
Yeah, I think that it's never been harder in the history of the NHL to win a Stanley Cup than it is right now. There are so many good teams in the NHL right now. So many good teams.
Well, that's good though. That's awesome. You don't want to see one team just dominating everything. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. My buddy was so happy. He was living in Vegas at the time, and he was like, "This is unbelievable. Las Vegas Golden Knights are like freaking, inaugural season. You make it to the Stanley Cup, and then of course they won the whole thing. Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember, but
last year, yeah,
last year, right? Like, I mean, you got to be like, if you rate that kind of success in another sport, what, the New York Yankees, maybe? Hollywood used to make, was it that movie back from the 50s? What was it called? Damn Yankees, because they freaking were winning like every freaking year almost. So that's the way I look at it. It's like Las Vegas Golden Knights for right now, that looked good. But yes, I like to see things competitively. I know we're not talking about crypto, but you know what, guys? We've been on here for almost 3 hours. Give us a break, right? Anyway.
Did you guys watch the movie Moneyball?
Yeah, love that movie. Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill.
Perfect example of why the NHL created the cap, right? Because in the same thing in baseball that was happening in Moneyball, right? You had these teams that didn't generate a lot of revenue before the cap era, right? Who were spending fortunes on all the big stars, and then they were just treating the other NHL team like Edmonton was like a farm team for some teams for a while,
Well, Moneyball can work in certain sports. I mean, I think it can work in NHL also compared to MLB, but I don't see Moneyball ever really working with like like the basketball concept, because like Moneyball originally, like, does he get on base? Like, they didn't give a crap about like slugging percentage or some of these other things, like how many RBIs is. Well, I guess you could say RBIs, but I mean, it's just like bottom line, does he get on base? And then so as a result, that model by the A's was applied to a winning thing that happened with what? Boston Red Sox, right? And oh my God, they take on the Yankees, come back from that 3-0 deficit. And then so many other teams have made that their model. Moneyball still technically exists from that perspective. Anyway.
Well, I watched a thing, and they were talking about actually Dennis. It's funny you said, because Dennis Rodman was actually, kind of not really desired before. And I think it was Michael Jordan that said, well, how many rebounds does he get? Right.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That is, okay, fair enough. That is a version of Moneyball, but as far as just going out and getting like trash players that nobody's ever heard of, kind of like, let's just be honest with how the A's did it, and then Boston applied that to be their model, and that completely worked. I mean, from 2004 to present, how many World Series championships they get? Like 4, maybe 5 in that time frame. Well, my God, the curse of the great Bambino, right? Like 1918 all the way up to 2004, nothing, no championships, just American League championships, and then of course Bill Buckner, 1986. Anyway, here I'm talking about the history of baseball. Sorry.
Sounds like my league.
I was always a longtime Twins fan, originally being from Minnesota, and Big Papi was one of the people they let go because they thought they had better options.
A lot of teams make mistakes. Yeah. I like the Twins back in the day. Kirby Puckett. It was sad to see that, when he passed away, but yeah.
Nice. All right, guys, I'm doing the P dance here, so I'm gonna head you. I'm surprised you guys aren't. Maybe you are. I don't know, but
yeah, I'm getting sweaty here in this chair. I gotta get up and walk around, air out a little bit.
Jesse's getting sweaty, knees deep or something, or sweaty, vomit on his chest already. Mom spaghetti. How's that go? I can't remember anyway.
I appreciate you guys coming to do this, man. I like having these roundtables every, maybe every couple of months, just to kind of, for the community, you know what I mean? Like, and if one of you guys ever wants to do it on your channel, like, absolutely let me know, and I'm always there,
Is your P dance really super, super bad? You got 2 minutes.
I got 2 minutes.
How about you? Just real quick, Jesse. I made something earlier that I wanted to share on the show for that innovation zone. This is for everybody. This is for the whole entire community, okay? It's a little bit of language. We're all adults here, okay? This is for everybody in celebration of JASMY going to 3.5, almost 4 cents. Smash that like for Brother Rob, Crypto Future, Jesse, KR Finance. Follow these guys, right? I'm going to present this on the screen. Hopefully you can full screen this, because that'd be kind of cool. Anyway, I'm going to pull it up it's actually on my computer. Here we go. I'm going to play it. And yes, here we go.
Drop the top and let the sun shine in. With the wood grain, let the Twinkies spin. Get you a glass, mix the Coke and the hen. It's quite alright with the draw in the wind, with the draw in the wind. Got me a 73 Chevy, put dubs on that bitch. Candy, apple, green, niggas loving this shit. Loving this shit. And when I'm in it, I'll act a fool. You don't like how I'm living, bitch, fuck you. That's right. I'm a rude ass nigga. Quick to do you, cut a fool ass nigga. and switch sides. Hot hole worker Sean John below to the floor. He oughta enjoy with the loaded 4-4. Be sure and acquire more for you fuck with mine. Disrespect, I'll disconnect your line. With a 6-watt, when shit's hot you get shot. The fire, the fury, you fuck with it not. You're stopping the grace, get out my space and my face. For me and my ace to lay down the whole place. Recognize, this is the verbalized surprise. Fucking with me. Wrong way to wise, nigga. Those clothes, show those goals. Big old bank rolls, that's all a nigga knows. Throw your elbows, I'm sicker than I suppose. Hold them chose, cause my jury froze. You know how it goes, these young niggas don't want it like this. Go off and get your get to silence the chit-chat blast. So pass, outlast, out cash. More sicky, talk tricky, to the trick like trash. No rilla, a gorilla flow for most thriller. Come clean, looking mean, but you ain't no killer. Drop the top and let the sun shine in. With the wood grain, let the Twinkies spin. Get you a glass, mix the Coke and the hen. It's quite alright with the throw in the wind. With the throw in the wind.
Hopefully we don't get
No, you won't.
copyright.
You won't. It's copyright free, royalty free. I already thought about that in advance. Just want to
Where'd you
let
find
everybody. So everything you see on the visuals, I actually pieced those together on clips, you know, and so I put that together. As far as the song, that is actually an AI song. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So if anybody wants to rewatch this, or like, you know, you're like, hell yeah, man, that's awesome. I want some tunes to celebrate what's going on with JASMY. You go to my channel, Maximus Crypto. It's in the video section. It's called JASMY Radio. I'm looking to do more of these in that reference. But one thing I was going to say is it tells a story. So you'll see that the lyrics are mashed up with the clips, you know. So I thought that was obviously pretty cool. I've done another one, which was Ice Cube's Today Was a Good Day. That's also not copyright infringement because that was also done with an AI voice. I'll share that with you on a different day because obviously we got to go pee. But yeah, I just want to say that was for all the people out there that weathered the storm through crypto winter, all the FUD, all the, you know, Binance Innovation Zone. That was for you. Okay. Shout out to all you guys. All right.
We're making it, guys. We're making it. Absolutely, man. Guys, make sure you are subscribing over to Jesse over at KIR Finance and Max at Maximus Crypto. Make sure you guys are over there subbing, guys. Fantastic stuff. One day I'll convince Jesse to make a video on his theory about Satoshi, but that's for another time.
Come on, I got to hear from Jesse real quick. Jesse, what do you think about the part where it kicked into "Don't Like How I'm Living"? F you, you know, and CZ and scam Bateman fraud. Anyway,
I was watching that and I was thinking, you know, maybe I don't need a Lambo. Maybe I need like an orange hoopty, you know, kind of like they did back in the day. That'd be pretty sweet.
Well, you know, we talk about crypto end goals and stuff like that. I'm not looking to buy a Lambo, but I'm going to own some vintage. I can't call them classics anymore because of how much time has gone by. When I was a kid in the 90s, you know, I would call it like, oh, man, look at these old school Impalas. They're so cool. So I'm looking to get like, man, like a 59 Impala, obviously 64 Impala, some old school Impalas. I also want to get a 48 Ford convertible, like, you know, Biff Tannen and Back to the Future. So that's my thing is vintage vehicles. But anyway.
I need a big black truck.
lately I've been in a loop of I've been watching. I'm a big fan of The Doors, believe it or not. And I somehow the LA Woman videos in my YouTube feed. So it's like, every couple days I'll just turn on and Morrison's, driving down the highway in this old Mustang. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. I also thought you appreciate, because obviously you're really into music, Jesse. So that's cool.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Appreciate it.
Also, guys, make sure you go and follow Brian and JASMY US over on X as well. They were here earlier tonight, guys. If you want to know where you can watch them, they don't have YouTube channels, but they do a lot of great alpha over on X. So make sure you shoot them a follow over there. Fantastic guys. So, all right, guys, thank you so much as always, man. I'll be messaging both of you. We'll chat, and hopefully we'll get together again sometime soon, man. If you guys ever want to do one of these on one of your channels or something, just fire me a message, man. I got you. I'm there. I got you guys.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. It's been great. Been a pleasure and honor as always. Thank you. Nice seeing you again, Jesse. I said JASMY. JASMY, Jesse, JASMY, aka the Master Yoda of the JASMY, we call it freaking Jedi Council, right? Anyway.
Hey, it's all right. I still think you're a Padres fan.
Oh, cringe. I think that's you guys that are Padres fans.
Shots fired.
No. Portland Diamond Project. It says it on the back, but I'll show that some other day.
All right.
All right, guys. I'll see you later. And Max, are you streaming tonight?
Nah, I usually don't stream on the weekends unless I get some really bullish news from Investor Place. It's just I work every day. I work 7 days a week, and I hold 3 jobs. I had 4. It was just a little bit too insane, but yeah, because if I don't take a little bit of break even from the crypto thing, I'm gonna go crazy. But I am gonna see the Investor Place report, so there's a chance I'll go. My thing is they've been covering that BT, because I know Jesse, you're like really BTC guy, right? That's okay. They pointed out 100K BTC by June, I think late June or early July, right? That was their whole thing, and they weren't even saying that it's possible. Like they're just like, yeah, it's going to totally do that. They've been right the last few cycles, right? As we know, we're in this 4th cycle, so I'm really interested to see if they came out with a report finally. If they did, and if it's real bullish or sharing, then I might have to do a show tonight. So I'm just going to throw that out there. So there's a possibility. It's a 50-50 chance. I don't know. Anyway,
I'll make sure I'm there, buddy.
Cool, man.
I'll do my regular stream about 3 hours from now. So, I'm gonna head out. Got to head to the gym. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much as always, guys. And I'll talk to you guys again soon.
Do it.
Catch you guys later.
All right, bye.